Okay, let's see.
All right, so we think we're live now. We're gonna try and find this on YouTube to make sure, and then we'll get started.
Let's see.
Okay, yep, I found it. There's people trickling in from our other one. I'm gonna shut down the other one.
You will probably want to change the title on that.
What does it say? Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. Working out the kinks over here.
Hey, there we go. We're good now.
I think people are still waiting on the other one. Let's see if I can give them a way for them easily to come over.
Anyways, while Jake's doing that, I will entertain you guys. Hey, how we doing, chat? What's up? So happy to be along for the ride on this live Q&A. I love it. One of the things I look forward to every Sunday. So
Let's see here. Yeah, feel free if people want to start. I'm not in the chat right now, but if people want to start asking Mason questions, and we can get going, he can take it away.
My camera fell down again. Jeez. All right, here we go. There we go. Now we're going professional now. Jeez, rough times. All right, already people talking about us having to talk about the waifu situation.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
Yeah, we all good, guys? We guys hear both of us? I was definitely thinking, I think I'm good now. Am I good? I'm watching I'm trying to watch the chat, watch the Zoom meeting. I'm trying to watch over here. I'm all over the place. Special delivery Pikachu. Every chat, everybody wants to know about our thoughts on special delivery Pikachu.
Yes, definitely a big topic. Okay, so I think we're probably in pretty good shape now here. I think people are making their way over. I closed the other one so people don't get confused. Okay. All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here with Mason from Cardinal Gaming. Happy to be here with you, Mason. How are you doing today?
I am happy to be along. Like I said, I'm along for the ride. I'm happy to be chatting with everybody. I love, like I said, watch it every week myself. So here I am, happy to be part of it.
So let's jump into some questions. I think our goal, and I was just talking to Mason right before we went live, the goal for today, I know last time James and I had kind of a conversation almost live. I think today we're going to try to go right into questions. So if you guys have any questions for Mason, start putting those in there. We'll kind of go top to bottom for a little bit, for a while, and then maybe, like usual, at some point we'll kind of switch to the bottom once we feel like maybe I think a good structure generally, guys, actually would be, we're going to probably generally on these do like maybe 10 to 15 questions, depending on how much time that takes, maybe more closer to 10. And then with those topics, maybe we'll just talk about those topics at the bottom. So if people want to ask follow-up questions, that might be a good way to not also get the repeat questions from people coming halfway through, that type of thing.
Yeah, let's do that. Sounds like a plan.
So, seen a lot of familiar faces. Good to see you all. All right. So Jeremy Jenkins asks, opinions on special delivery Pikachu going crazy. Will it go back down, Mason, or will it stay where it's at? Tell us what we should do. Should I mortgage everything?
I wouldn't, but so obviously special release, limited window for opportunity. Of course, as soon as people knew it was out there, people bought wanting the card because it is an awesome card. And then, you order from the Pokemon Center during the busiest time of the year anyways. So it was all compounded all together at the same time. There's probably tons of people that got that card and was like, I don't know what this is. Why did I get this? Because they didn't like explicitly advertise it on the website, which I thought was weird. I would have thought it would have been a bigger deal, but they didn't really even have it, saying that that was going out to people. So, I mean, I guess the smartest way to look at it would be to like the Pokemon Center exclusives in Japan, how they normally trend. I'm assuming it would be the way to go about looking at it from a investing standpoint and taking examples from past experiences with that. Obviously, it's something that you got for free for spending X amount of money. There's no cost to the person that got it. You didn't get to say whether or not you wanted it or not. But I mean, who was going to turn away a free Pokemon card? So obviously, yeah, it's something that's limited. It's obviously over time, it's going to go up. But with the crazy time that we're having right now for anything and everything that's exclusive and hard to get, and even new product is hard to get, yeah, prices are going to be silly. Whether or not it'll go down, I mean, what do you think, Jake? So what, $300 raw right now? 300?
Yeah, I think I was seeing it around that, seeing some like PSA 8-ish, CGC 8s, probably CGC 8s. I was hearing we're going for around that. So that makes sense for a kind of near mint card.
Right.
Around the 300. Yeah, I mean, what I personally would do, like I wouldn't be buying that card. I think with $300 or, $400 or whatever it is, you could, I could be buying things that I like more in the Pokemon space just as a collector. I do like that card. I think it's really cool. I would be going back to earlier Pokemon Center cool Pikachu promos that I could get less, that are older, that just aren't the hot thing right now.
Oh, so you're saying turn it around and go, okay, if people like this, if they want to start a collection of Pokemon Center exclusive stuff,
yeah,
to go to the Japanese stuff. I mean, it makes sense to me. That sounds like a good little hot tip.
I think generally speaking, like what we're looking for here is what's going to make this stand out over time. So why is this Pikachu promo going to stand out over the other 50 Pikachu promo, Japanese Center, cards from, and I think that it is cool. I like the card. I like the holo pattern. I like the general look of it.
Yeah.
I do think that both as a collector and as an investor, I would stay away from the hottest hype thing, generally speaking. If you want to hold things for a while, and if you want to collect,
are you saying? I'm sorry, particularly new stuff. Whenever something new comes out, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's really being talked about by everyone because really everyone knows about that card. You could use your knowledge and your skill and your ability to look a little bit deeper, to look at some of the interesting, Pikachu promo cards. I have some in my head. I don't even know the names of them, but like the one with like the boating, like the sailboat one. I don't know. There's so many. I could go grab my box. I have all of these. So I have a number of all of those earlier ones. And if you want to invest in these or collect in these, I would go back and look at those and see which ones are kind of inexplicably at a lower price than this one. Why is it at a lower price? And then I would also look at pop reports on those older ones. I see how hard it is to grade. Should I go after a 10 of one that is kind of a quite a bit more difficult to grade, that's where I think you'd get your best value for this. In terms of what's happening in the market right now, supply barely matters right now. It's all about demand. It's all about hype to me, Mason, and it's all about where the attention is for the moment. Now, how long that's going to last on the waifus or special delivery Pikachu or whatever, I'm not really sure, but I don't think an item has to be incredibly rare for it to go up a lot right now. I think it has to be, people have to be aware of it. I think it seems to be the lesson that I'm learning from this week with some of these cards. What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously we have another special delivery with the Charizard.
Yeah.
That has not been announced, hasn't been showcased anyway. You have to assume we may get it eventually. But who's not to say that we do another round of special delivery Pikachus and have them re-released? I mean, that's always an option for something that's limited.
That might happen. But again, all speculation.
Right.
And again, for three to 400, let's say, you could buy Neo. There are some Neo first edition PSA 10 holos that they're after 20 years are only 50, 60, 80 of in the world. And they'll probably only be 160 ever in the world. So again, you need to collect what you enjoy and what you love. So if you only like modern, you only like Pikachu promos, this is what you have to work with. Don't buy Neo cards that you don't like. But I think when we talk about value from my perspective and someone who likes all the cards, I would say first question I would ask is, what else could I get for $300 to $400 right now? And are there things that I like better, either to make money or just as a collector than that? That would be my first question. And for me, the answer is yes.
Right.
For me personally.
When somebody says whether or not should I buy this at $300, I would say, if you're just buying it just because you think it has value and will keep value, I would say and suggest probably not. But obviously, if you want to hold on to it and get it graded or whatever, I'm sure that'd be a smart thing. What do you think? I see people talking in the current chat about swirls. Swirls. Do swirls matter to you? Do you, as a long-term collector and of classic Pokemon stuff, do swirls matter at all? Do you care?
It's an interesting question. So I don't it's not something I spend a lot of time thinking about, to be completely honest. So I guess the honest answer is no, not that much. But I suppose if, I think that the way the holo pattern looks or the way the holo pattern pops is going to grab you into a card. And when you're looking for buyers for your card and you put it on eBay and you have this beautiful picture of it and you have a really cool holo pattern on your card that's maybe even cooler than the average holo pattern because it has cool swirls, because of the way, it just has more holo in that card or less holo. If we want to talk about, slight variations in holos, that can matter. I mean, eye appeal is a very real thing. And it's really a lot stronger in sports cards where they have a much more mature market where you can have two cards with a PSA 5 grading, for example, two vintage cards, and one will go for much, much more because the colors are more vibrant on it, because the centering's better, because there's certain elements that even if it doesn't deserve a higher grade, it's a more beautiful version of that card.
Right.
So that's where I would put that stuff in that category. But again, it's not unless they start giving like a holo swirl grade at PSA where they're
right. I was going to say, so like if you had a PSA 10 with a swirl and without a swirl, would the one with the swirl deserve to be more expensive?
I think if I liked the swirl, I mean, maybe the swirl could be at a weird place where it was distracting. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like the appeal. Do you like it better? Because at the end of the day, people are eventually going to buy these things because they like them better and aren't just going to be as focused on the money component, or on what's going to make the most money. So I think you should ask yourself that question if you're out there buying it. Do I prefer it with the swirl? Do I think the swirl on this card makes this card pop? And I think that if it does, you should buy that. That card probably deserves a little bit of a boost for you. And it might for other people too. So I think that this whole swirls are stupid and it doesn't change the card at all isn't true. It does change the look of the card. And I think, but people who maybe are too bullish on swirls or like swirls are going to be the next, also might be going a little far. So
what a phrase, bullish on swirls, bullish on swirls. I love that.
What do you think, Mason?
I mean, obviously I don't think it increases value, but it is a neat little thing to see on a card. like that for the visual appeal of it. Yes. Do I think it makes it more expensive? I mean, historically, I don't think it will. But
Yeah.
if you had one over the other, yeah, I'd take the one with the swirl if it's in a cool placement. Why not?
And you never know with these things. I mean, these things can create some differentiation and value down the line. It is possible, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
So Adam Cervantes asks, Mason, are you sold out of full arts now?
Yes, I'm full. I was sold out of full arts long before like anybody was reporting on that stuff. So I got hit pretty early with all that. I have had some come in, but of course I paid relative to the market. I think they've already sold again. So seems like the buying and selling is still happening with the full art stuff. So
yeah. So you're able to buy them and then sell them at a little bit of a higher margin, and they're still flying off the shelf.
I mean, they're still moving. Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah,
especially the more premium ones. Like I think I had some like Bay, the new full art, who's popular. Nessa, who's another from Viv Voltage. They're all popular. So of course, yeah, they're fine. Do you want to talk about the waifu thing? You have a thing that you want to say broadly right off the gate about the whole full art?
I don't think it's about the waifus. I think that the lesson here is a few things to me. The lesson is, one, how important demand is right now, and how wherever the eyes are is where the money is, and what is might move right now in this window. One. Two, there's still a lot of demand in Pokemon and a lot of interest in Pokemon, which is a really good lesson, that even if we've seen retraces in some vintage items, modern in particular for these types of items, there's a lot of people who like really want to be engaged in this market. Now, how many of those people are looking to collect these versus basically they are like, well, we can't make money doing these other things that we used to do. Maybe we need to move to buyouts now, or we need to move to these other sorts of mechanisms to make a margin or make a profit, could be going on as well. But there's a lot of money. There's a lot of interest. I think that in the short run, predicting what the YouTubers are going to talk about or what's the next modern thing to hype up or to really go up a lot is good money right now.
So are you saying it's because of the hype? It's not just because of how the cards look and how cool they are, do you think? I mean, do you find them personally collectible?
Both. So I own a lot of them because I like them, because I collected them. But I didn't buy them to make money. I bought them because I liked and enjoyed them. I thought that they were undervalued relative to other cards in the set.
I agree. Yeah, I do too.
I always felt that way because for me, it was like there seemed to be an anti-trainer thing, because I think that we as Pokemon fans weren't used to the trainers being holos or main cards. So, in Vintage, we hated the trainers. Getting a trainer was bad, outside of like Gym Challenge and Gym Hero, where you could get the holo trainer. But even those, when you'd pull one of those, you'd be like, ugh, instead of a holo Pokemon. But for me, these trainers and characters, particularly the ones I like the most, were part of my childhood. And I said this as part of my the interview with Pat. It was, this idea that when I looked at Jesse and James, for example, I knew that the supply on this was, this was an incredibly easy to pull, mass produced card, but I liked it. I put it in my binder because I enjoyed it. And I felt that I feel like there are times when things have such low value that people just throw out the card. They don't even look at the card when it's cheap. And I think that for some of these full arts, that type of thing happens where people don't even let themselves realize that I actually really like this card. But then when a YouTuber or when someone points out that, hey man, you like this card, it's cool looking, and you hear other people confirm it, it starts this snowball effect. But for me, what happens is it can go from undervalued to overvalued very quickly in this market. Can I think be a pattern? What do you think, Mason?
I think there is a lot of it where people maybe didn't think that they were going to have value, so they didn't really worry about it. But now that people see they have value, yeah, they're going after them now, and they're like, oh yeah, I guess they've always been cool. I mean, there's always been people that collected them. I have customers that have bought all the full arts just because they think they were cool.
Yeah,
and because they were cheap at especially during modern sets. But I think I'm seeing across the trends right now, especially I'm just like I said, I'm a medium-sized store. I'm not like some big store, but even now I'm seeing the market progress into looking at very like niche collections and very subset collecting, where I've had somebody that bought every Lapras card I had or every Gardevoir card I've had.
Mhm.
And full arts have always been, if I sold a bunch of full art, if I've sold one full art, more than likely I've sold, a bunch to that same person. Or, if they bought one, they're going to buy all these from the set because they are working on that sort of collection.
Yeah.
And,
So piggybacking off that great point, I think one thing that's happening in modern, right, is there's too much. And so people need to niche down. People need
yeah.
something to grab onto that
Yeah.
they feel comfortable collecting. So one example of that is you just gave, you can collect a specific Pokemon, all the Lapras, all the Gardevoir. But in this case, these full arts make a nice, maybe reasonably sized collection where I can try to get all the modern full arts and put them in a binder, rather than collecting all 10,000 cards from all of these sets and making master sets, which is so much more money, so much more effort and so much more issue. So that there's all of that organic collector interest and collector stuff that this has. But then there's also, I think, very clearly, I'm hearing about huge buyouts of people buying like 100 of each of these, people buying, and people who were buying none of them now going into the space, buying a ton, betting that they can drive the price up even higher and then find more people to sell to. It'll be interesting to see. I'm just going to watch it happen.
Right.
Personally. And I'm going to sell some of my cards probably into it because I have a bunch of extras of these that I don't need in my collection, and use that. Maybe I'll purchase a couple more Neo first edition PSA 10 Holo, just add to that. But that's for me personally. But
right.
I think, but I won't sell all of them because I like them. So I want to keep my binder collection I will say that the pop reports on these are misleading because nobody wanted these. So I would be very careful looking at the pop reports, even of the ones from like the XY era, and thinking like, oh, there's only 45 10s, there's only 100 9s, to think like that's a good measure of the supply out there.
Right.
Because a lot of people who have this stuff.
Right. You got to remember, these are not played cards for the most part. These are not cards that Pokemon has printed to be viable. So they weren't played with. They were put in a binder. They were stored. They've been kept safely.
Yeah.
And I've told people on comments on my videos, there's hundreds of thousands of these cards sitting in binders across the country, and they're probably PSA 910 level because people just put them in a binder and they just thought they were cool looking. So
exactly.
And that's kind of the weird thing that I think is, where is all this supply of these cards that, if a card jumps up 500%, you would think there'd be a massive flood onto the market of people trying to get rid of this card. I just don't think the information's out there to where people, and that's why people are able to run and buy these buying groups if that's a real thing that you want to agree on. I say that there's probably underpopulated sellers of these cards anyways, for as many as that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the same idea of like, hey, if there's a pop of a PSA 10 of X card, whatever you want, but you only see 2 or 3 on eBay, what's the price is going to do? That's a small percentage of how many of those cards exist.
Yeah.
And that's what's pushing these prices.
I think that you're right on the money. I think the one thing I'll add, so I think one of the big things, right, is that people don't know they've gone up yet or they'd be selling them. The other thing is that when prices go up on things, it makes people want to hold them more often, is the psychology. It's irrational, but that's the psychology, because it's like, oh, this is actually really valuable and I'm going to ride it to the moon, is what happens. So I think that and maybe, you don't feel that way, and we could get into that, would be interesting. But I can tell you that even I have those feelings of like, whoa, I don't want, oh, people want this. No one's getting my card, and I think that type of thing is the exact thing that causes,
right. Yeah.
bubbles, we can say. And then when the prices start going down, people jump over each other to sell it, that type of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Are you asking if I personally buy into that, or as a business do that?
No, like, do you experience that? I know you're not.
Do I personally? No.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
don't.
So it's not something. So your I think your mind is so business oriented
Yes,
about
exactly.
selling at margin that it works very differently from like from your. That's what I was kind of getting at. Than from
Yes. No,
like,
I'm
most
very much the
collectors. Yeah.
yeah, I'm very much the abnormal in that I do not collect. I don't hold on to anything. I have my Arcanine here, and that's all I got.
So I
But
think
yeah,
it can make easier for you to sell into hype, whereas for most people, it's actually psychologically very difficult to sell into hype because they're afraid that they're not going to that they're afraid it's going to keep going up, or they're afraid they won't be able to get it back for cheaper, or these types of things.
oh yeah, for sure, and I get that as somebody that collects or a collector would think that way, of course.
So Omnipoke, so Joe asks, with all this what's next mentality, I have just one question. What's next, Nathan?
Hey Joe,
What should
I've
we
never
have
spoken to
today?
Joe, but I do like Joe and I appreciate Joe for what he does with standard Pokemon and playing Pokemon because I'm big, obviously as a store.
And Joe has one of the better invest in Pokemon videos, particularly for beginner people. He did
Yeah,
sort of
he
a
does.
long video on it. That's like just like a really great place to start for everyone who's starting to go check out Omnipoke's channel and check out that video.
Right. I think I said what's if to answer what's next. I think there's a lot of cards that are undervalued, and of course, I gotta be careful, right? Because I don't want to be the next influencer that pushed up prices. But
Yeah,
or who cares? I mean,
I think he's partially teasing.
yes, I am. I am definitely partially teasing. I'm to that. Our response is yes. There's influence, and also, who cares? If somebody thinks something is genuinely cool,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, shouldn't everybody think it's cool and everybody go out and buy it because it's undervalued? But that's a different thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole debate on, and I did an interview today that I'm going to put out where we talked about this is, yeah, I mean, I think that I think that it's unfortunate. I don't think our market is always going to be like this, but I think for right now, because there are, I think, a lot more newer people than there are older people.
Yeah.
It creates a certain marketplace where people are really looking for someone to tell them what to do and where and what should be valuable. What should I buy? What should I want? Which is actually a normal thing to do when you're discovering from the first time, because you're like, well, hey man, you've been here for a long time. What do you think is going to make me happy in this space to buy? And I think that's how do you share that information without moving cards? You can't, is the answer. So, it's sort of like, whatever you decide to put attention on, even if you're giving good, like practical feedback on what that card is, it's very likely going to move those cards because you're giving attention to that card versus some other cards. So my exact response, for example, to the Pikachu, the delivery Pikachu, is not that isn't a great card.
No, yeah.
That there are other great cards that have a very similar makeup that no one's talking about. And so that's often what I say, because what happens is it's not that these full art cards aren't great looking cards, but there are also a lot of other great looking cards that aren't getting attention right now. Right. And so rather than me, I really shy away from giving you guys the information. I rather teach, encourage you to do research, to think about it, to go onto eBay, look at what people are buying and selling. Go onto Bulbapedia, go onto PokemonPrice.com, look at each set, look at all the cards from the sets, study the pop reports, get a sense of where there is value. Why aren't people talking about that set? Why is everyone talking about that set? That sort of thing. There are a lot of hated on sets. There are a lot of hated on cards that it's don't make any sense to be hated on. I'll tell you that much, and I'm not gonna say them. It's just not my style, and I'm really trying to stick to that. But everyone,
so you don't want to tell anybody anything. You don't want to say, "Hey, I think these are undervalued."
Yeah, I mean, I do obviously, and I hint it here and there, but I try.
This is me poking you to be like, "Hey, what does Jake think? What is?"
Yeah, I mean, listen, in this conversation, right, I've implied the Neo Holos, for first edition PSA 10 Holos. I've implied, things like that. There are a lot of like regular Holos from the Nintendo EX era. There's a lot of stuff. There's very unique, interesting,
here we go,
old back Japanese stuff that nobody knows about, nobody talks about. interesting things like how many people in the chat here know what the lenticular Deoxys is. These types of things that nobody talks about, nobody knows about, that are amazing cards that should be so much more valuable than the delivery Pikachu in my mind. But it's like when I say those things, or when I do those things, or if I make a video, one thing that's nice about this is it's like not as nearly as many people will hear that point because people skim through these videos, versus if I make a short, here's 5 things you should buy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm a very small channel, so I just don't have to worry about it quite as much. But it's still something that I'm not really sure what to do about it. How are you thinking about it for yourself these days?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm different, obviously, because I have a store. Do I have things that I have in stock that I think are silly and undervalued that I'm sitting on? Why do I have 20 of these at $3 a piece? Absolutely. Like there's tons of those cards that I think are extremely undervalued. I don't mind saying that I think the Ultimates of GX tag teams are extremely undervalued, and they're beautiful cards, and they deserve more praise. And I don't know if you keep up on what's coming down the pipes, but Battle Styles has some awesome. They're either going to be full arts or alternate arts. We don't know, obviously, yet, but they're going to be awesome looking cards that look almost identical to what the alternate art tag teams do. A lot of style, a lot of personality to them. And yes, obviously, people that are collecting what they like will go after those cards. And a lot of people that have popular Pokemon and want to go after these, collecting every Tyranitar card, because there's a Tyranitar V that's coming that has a cool alternate art. Yeah, those cards I think are going to see some demand, especially long term.
I think my concern with all of those modern things, I think that tag teams are interesting because it stands out.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that stands out in a big way, because you have to think how many more Pokemon sets there are going to be in 20 years if Pokemon is still going. And what is it? The market is going to have to either be so much bigger that it can absorb all of the modern product and all of the next 20 years of product and the product that you're buying for right now. It's going to have to absorb so much more. There's going to need to be so much more money to absorb all that product. And so what is going to be special? So even if that is a cool modern looking card,
right?
What is going to make it be any cooler than the modern cards that are coming out in 5 years from now that are going to be just as vintage as the card you have right now in 20 years? I don't think that the 5 years in the middle of Pokemon is going to matter in terms of which one's more vintage. Where I do think that Wizards of the Coast and early Nintendo EX era is always going to, and the Diamond and Pearl era, to be honest, and some of the Black and White maybe, because of low print runs, is always going to have more mystique than any of these eras. What do you think, Mason?
I mean, yeah, the farther you get away from a card, the less likely you are to see it, the less likely you are to come across it in collections and be, buying and selling. There's going to be less of those on the market in general. So obviously, the older things get, the more expensive they're going to be, just because of the amount that's out there. And it goes right back to, if there's only 2 or 3 things listed on eBay, those 2 or 3 people basically has the entire populace. These cards automatically or just see a spike in demand of any kind. They have complete control over, setting the bar for what sells at next.
I think my argument is something like if we compare it to comics.
Okay.
There are hundreds of thousands of incredibly cool comics.
Yeah.
From that are worth nothing at all. That if you looked at them, you'd be like, well, this is shinier and more interesting than the Golden Age comics. Right. It's more crazy, but it's not the first appearance. And at the time, those comics were selling for huge amounts of money. If we want to compare it to modern Pokemon now, potentially this would be the worry, right?
At release or at?
Yeah, at release,
okay.
Alternate comic book arts people were thinking they were going to get rich, were investing in them, thought that they would go up 20, 30 times in value. They did go up a lot because there was a lot of hype, because people thought they would go up in the future. The exact same thing that could happen to a lot of these modern cards in Pokemon right now. Now, what I'm arguing is that these cards, these vintage cards, I don't necessarily like the vintage cards so much more than modern. I think people get me wrong here. I actually like all of these cards quite a bit. But when we think about what makes something investable and what stands out, there's never going to be another first appearance. There's a reason why the Batman first appearance comic is selling for $2 million right now. And it's not because it's the coolest looking art. It's because it's the first time that thing ever appeared. And I think that people are greatly, greatly underestimating that right now in the hobby. I mean, I can't say it enough. And I think people who are interested in modern are either think that like that's just not going to repeat itself in Pokemon for some reason, even though that's what happened in comic books. And Pokemon is the exact same as comic books. It's the closest thing.
Any collectible, yeah, it's comparable. Yeah.
No, but comics is the closest because it's the same character throughout the generations.
Gotcha.
So one thing that's hard about sports is that vintage sports isn't necessarily going to be more expensive than modern sports because they're different. They're different characters,
different players. Yeah,
different players. So it's the first appearance cards are expensive. The rookie cards are expensive, but you can have modern rookie cards in sports. Whereas in comics, yes, they can have new characters that they add in these sorts of things, but the oldest, most popular characters, sports kind of work cyclical, while certain players become very popular and cared about for generations.
Sure.
Whereas comic books and Pokemon, I think, is going to be more like the originals. The first are always going to be the most important things. And that's part of why I think that it's going to follow that pattern a lot more than this idea that modern is going to somehow be the thing everyone wants in 20 years. And I think people really believe that. I think people believe that modern is shinier, it's cooler in that sense. And that's why, and people are going to like them more and want them more than vintage. And I don't believe that. It'll be interesting to find out. If that happens, that'll be really cool. Honestly, that wouldn't upset me because it'd be like really fascinating and interesting about human psychology that the shininess, somehow the beginning stuff in this Pokemon space didn't hold the value, but the middle stuff did. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Wow, what a thing to think about. Hope you guys all listen to that. Like that's extremely valuable insight, I think, if you're thinking about overall what Pokemon will be doing as we get to 20, 30, 40 years of Pokemon existing.
And Pokemon's going to make shinier and shinier stuff.
It's going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
And it ruined it because what happened was every cover got more intense. They had more alternate arts of each one. And Pokemon is doing that, but Pokemon is much better right now at controlling it and maintaining it. And also Japanese in particular is very smart with their releases and not oversaturating with their promos because they could and make a lot more money in the short term. So I don't know how that's all going to work out. We also don't know. I mean, what happened in comic books is the demand went down overall also for periods. So Pokemon may not experience that. Pokemon may experience an increase in demand in the future. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's all risk and it's all stuff to think about. So when you're buying into these GXs that look cool, what's going to make it stand out? Well, one point you made, which I think is true, it's the first time outside of those legendary, the Call of Legends kind of the legendary cards that have those two Pokemon on them or those sorts of things. And you do have cards, vintage cards and vintage Japanese cards that have multiple Pokemon on them that aren't just trainers.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the first time in sort of the modern era they were doing that. They were doing tag teams. And I think that is a first. And we might look on that in a historic way to some degree and might make some of those special. But I think that there's going to be so much cardboard, endless amounts of cool looking shiny cardboard. So what is going to make your cool looking shiny cardboard stand out from the millions of other shiny cool cardboard in 20 to 30 years? That type of thing.
No, yeah. I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, that's obviously because we have something to look at and the experience of seeing what comics did. It makes total sense to me. I think you nailed it.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to follow that pattern, but I would be very shocked if it didn't, because that's what's going to happen is people are going to be searching for rarity. We're going to have right now. I think we're in the era of demand. I think we're going to move into an era of rarity, and that people are going to be looking for something that's actually special, because so much stuff is going to be just everywhere and overproduced, and that sort of thing. So, and that's what we've seen in comic books, in sports cards, the junk wax era. And in sports cards, what they did, which really has boosted the modern stuff, is they do these one of ones. And so what will also be interesting is if Pokemon ever does that, where they, I'm imagining what if they do like, hand sketches, by artists, specific, interesting art inserts sign that they put into the pack. I mean, they could do really cool things with that
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. They could do a lot of stuff that would be unique like
yeah.
that.
All right.
One
So
of 500 or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And those would be that would radically shift the interest and the hype, because I can tell you if they did that, there'd be no hype around a lot of these other things. And all of the hype would go to the shiny, most rare item, and all of this stuff would fall in price, would be my prediction. So Connor B says, Mason, what are your thoughts on Japanese vintage cards? Why are they so undervalued compared to English cards? Also, do you have any thoughts on the Topps anime cards?
Yeah. I have seen a demand even locally in Japanese cards just because they are, I tell everybody that comes in and they're like, well, what's the deal with Japanese cards? Why do you even have in the case with this other stuff? I'm like, because like, if you are looking to go back about the first of when things happen, Japanese stuff is the original Pokemon stuff. Basically, the base set, WotC stuff, the Japanese stuff did it first. So if you're looking for collectibles as far as the first ofs, Japanese stuff is where it's at. Not only because also like the color's better on a lot of the cards, and like particularly like the psychic types and stuff like that. The holos are normally better, have more complexities than the English versions. There's the collectibles of not just, you think of like Misty's Tears that was censored and changed for America, in the Sabrina's Gengar and stuff like that's been changed. But that in itself has also stuff that you can go after in Japan. That's cards that we just didn't get here. I think Japanese has a lot of cool stuff about it that I, as a person that thinks of those kind of different stuff in cultures and stuff, like what somebody thinks is taboo in this culture for a child's card game versus what we think is taboo in a child's card game, it's interesting to me. And
Yeah.
I've always liked Japanese cards, and I think they were undervalued. But as a seller, there wasn't really any demand until very, very recently. I would say with the uptick of, in October, November, that I started selling a lot of Japanese cards, and people collecting Japanese cards for, grading and holding on to and investing in. So I think Japanese stuff is finally coming back into the limelight of where it should be, and of that kind of collectability that it should always be.
Yeah, I think there's a hurdle in Japanese, which is I can't read my card if I don't speak Japanese, that I do think some people experience initially. But I can tell you from being in the hobby a while and knowing lots and lots of people who've been in it for 10, 15 years, love the Japanese stuff. I mean, when you spend a little bit of time in the hobby, you develop the vast majority of people develop an appreciation for the Japanese stuff, and all the points you said about the colors, the look of the card. There are things that it's not just the exact same card in a lot of instances. There are things about it that are very interesting and create more, I don't know what the correct word would be, but just like more depth, intrigue. There's something about some of these cards. And now for me, I prefer some cards in English, some cards in Japanese when we really get into it. Like some of the gold stars, for example, with the yellow border versus the silver border, I prefer the look with the gold or the yellow. Some of them I way prefer.
Oh, really? You like the yellow?
Some of them I think jump out well with the yellow. I think some jump out better with the silver. And so I think that for me, it's also card to card. I can like different ones better.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, makes sense.
But the other stuff with Japanese has always been the that you could get in the set cards, you could get in like the Wizards of the Coast era, other than base set, you could get a holo in every pack. So there were things they tended to not have as the same whitening issues. They had centering issues, but not whitening issues. So they were like a little bit easier to grade, although still quite difficult. Stuff like that always made them a lot less desirable initially. So talking a little bit about the history of this stuff,
right?
The chase was on the English side because it was very easy to get those cards in 10s and 9s, or much, much easier on Japanese. So it wasn't as fun. And so the chase was trying to find these like English WotC packs and getting the first PSA 10 set ever of this sort of thing. And that same chase wasn't there on the Japanese. So I think that's part of why English really moved a lot. And of course, that the first thing I said of that the English cards you can read, and that most people in the Western markets grew up with the English cards, or, and some combination because Japanese cards were here too, but the English ones were the first ones they opened and connected to. So they had the most immediate nostalgia, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of people did have some Japanese cards growing up, but obviously, yeah, they didn't covet them as much as English cards. A lot of collections I have come in always have some Japanese cards thrown in there just because I don't know how they got them or why they had them too, but
when I opened
always see them.
Japanese cards as a kid, Mason,
yeah,
I loved them, and I had a response of like, these are the originals, and I liked having both. So I think that even as a kid, I had a general collector's interest in both. I like being able to read the Pokemon's name, but once I knew all the Pokemon and I knew I knew the cards well, having the Japanese variant, even as like a very little kid, was attractive to me. So I actually chose to buy Japanese packs over English packs some of the time. Like I remember that as a kid.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting.
I like the stuff that we didn't get in English. So I like a lot of the vending series. I love the vending series, even though they're not very expensive. I love them just because I think they're cute and quirky and have so much character and charm to them. But even like, the promos, even now that the full arts that we get now that, we're in Japan, but we never got, I think it's all cool collectible stuff. Not if people bring them in, I buy them just because, I think it's a cool piece to have in the case that, of art that people haven't seen before, just because I think it's neat.
Yep. I mean, vending series, been underrated for a long time compared to some other things.
Oh, here we go. Hot take.
Versus series.
I have the vendor series.
Junior Rally, Korokoro. Korokoro is extremely undervalued. The reason these things are undervalued is because people don't know about them. And when they see them, they don't know exactly what they are and they don't feel comfortable with them. They don't understand where they came from. Whereas it's very easy to understand the English, the modern English, and that it came from this set, and I'm going to try to complete this set. And it does take a huge shift. There's so much to collect. It's overwhelming to collect outside of what you're doing. And so to move people from, I think, collecting these modern sets to collecting that is a big shift, psychologically, emotionally. But I think people who stay in the hobby will get there, and that's already happening in huge ways. I mean, all those cards have gone up a huge amount in value, versus
I've seen, first couple sets of Japanese cards I was selling for $1 or $2, and now they've gone up and having their own market, in line with all the other base set stuff from in English. So yeah, they're only marginally cheaper now. So we've seen the market catch up on those.
Yeah.
The comments are on fire right now. I love everybody.
Yeah, please
talking about different stuff.
Read comments. Read whatever you want, Mason.
Well, Pat Flynn's in here, so hey, Pat. He's doing his thing.
Pat is everywhere. There are multiple Pats.
Dude, I tell you, we don't deserve Pat. He's so great. But
yes, it's was a pleasure talking to him for sure, and it's really it's just I really think it's so nice how he's made. Obviously he's someone who puts a lot of time and effort into making those connections and talking to lots of different people. And I think it's really great because it brings a lot of channels and a lot of people together. And, so much of us, I mean, for me, like, I just want more great content to be out there, and because I watch all this stuff. And so I'm very excited about Pat's channel because the music, the video cut takes, and then more than anything, the story and just the beauty of the cards. Like, I can't wait to see him tell stories about common cards, as he was saying, because I love every Pokemon of the original one. Like I think it's hilarious how like people don't. When I played the Pokemon games as a kid, I mean, I'm a humongous Pokemon fan. I tried to beat that game with every Pokemon in my I played that game thousands of hours probably,
right?
And I tried to beat it with every character, and I tried to beat it with like the unevolved forms, the evolved forms, and so I developed relationships to all of the original 151 Pokemon or 150 Pokemon, not so much Mew.
Wow,
I always
suck at Mew.
I always wanted Mew and loved Mew, but I never played with Mew because I didn't know how to get Mew as a kid. Mew was always the one that I didn't know existed or didn't know how to get. But and I didn't have someone to trade with. So I think part of why I always loved Gengar and Golem and Alakazam was because I never got to play with them because
Right.
I didn't have a friend to trade with.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
So I think those were always that them and Mew always had a more mythical kind of connection relationship to. But going back to Pat, why I'm excited is I think that he's really taking seriously like bringing that love and that enjoyment, and that he's gonna hopefully bring attention to all the Pokemon and to all of the cool, interesting stories behind the Pokemon, and maybe even weave in, other sorts of things. And I that isn't happening anywhere. So I think that's pretty cool, and has the actual skill to do it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, yeah, a professional in this era of like, hey, I'm new to this. I don't know what I'm doing, and just watching him on his journey of learning and navigating the hobby, especially right now, is just an awesome thing to have a channel about. So
Yeah.
let's do some more questions. You want to do some more questions?
Yeah. Any other comments? Fire them out if you see something you want to do. I'm going
okay. Let's see.
To see what else people were asking.
Okay.
Okay. Here's one for both of us.
Okay.
Matty says, do you ever see base set going down, or will it just slowly climb over time as the cards get older and harder to come by in decent condition? Thanks.
In decent condition. That's the thing. Time erodes all things. And yeah, finding them in good shape is going to be obviously way harder as things, 25 years, right? I mean, 22 for the cards, but yeah, it's good. I don't know if, it'll have its ups and downs like everything, but there's only going to get more and more that are destroyed and lost over time. And obviously condition is going to be everything. Yeah, you're going to have millions of Charmanders, but in good shape? No, obviously not. So that's what you can see the focus going on.
There are some dangers with specific cards like unlimited Charmanders because they came in those theme decks. So there's some cards that have like 70 million, like there might be like 10 times the amount of.
Yeah.
And like no one knows these things for sure, and they may have survived in really good condition because people like just put those back.
Maybe,
whatever. So you have to be. I think that what I would say is that the next 10 years is going to be a big period of prices moving and adjusting based on what supply is still out there. Because as you see prices going up, more of those Charmanders are going to be graded that are out there, and that's going to put pressure on those price points to come all the way back down to around $50 for a PSA 10 or $40 at the point where people will stop sending them in because now the 9s they can't even get $25 for, so it's not worth their time. Yeah. So what happens is, I don't know how much demand there will be versus supply. What the best thing you can do is look at the pop reports for those sorts of things. What I will say is that, and the first thing you said is the key, Mason, everything is going to go up and down. So if someone tells you that you're going to buy a booster box, and just because there's going to be less and less of those in the world doesn't mean that it's always going to go up in value. That's not true. So what happens is that, yes, supply is steady or goes down, but scarcity can change. And what scarcity really means is how many people want to sell at a certain price and how many are on the market. And you could have 100 booster boxes that no one wants to sell, and then all of a sudden 10, 15 people want to sell, and that pushes the price down. You could have demand greatly decrease, and that'll put the price down if anyone wants to sell. So there are a lot of things to consider with that. That being said, you don't have to worry as much about some other things you have to worry about with Modern, particularly like the first edition base set holos, like things that have been graded and are pretty filled out, particularly mint, gem mint ones. Mm-hmm. Those pop reports probably will only double in 10 years. Who really knows? It could 5 times, it could not even double. But if those things double in 5 to 10 years, that's a very low amount compared to like, these modern Charizards that are being graded, for example, very low amount. And so we have more of a sense of what those pop reports are going to look like. The Hidden Fates Charizard, like no one can estimate how many tens that will be, right? We're still way too much in the mix of it. There's over 1 million cards right now, 1 million Pokemon cards at PSA that are probably like, 5 to 10% of those could be from Hidden Fates, and evolutions, huge numbers from those two sets. Everyone tells me who runs those companies that the two things they're seeing are evolutions and Hidden Fates. So we'll have to see, but that's what I would say. I think you hit the nail on the head about that things go up and down. Please do not buy these items if you cannot afford them, because they could go down. Okay.
Yeah, don't do it.
Please. But that doesn't mean that they won't double or go up.
Right.
So when I say that, I'm not telling you they're gonna go down right now, or that you're gonna lose money overall, or that now's a bad time to buy. It's
right. And people love to just grab those at high points or low points and say, "Look, you were wrong because at this particular time."
Exactly.
In these ebb and flows, like prices are going to change, and that's where, if you want to buy and sell and make money, those little blips are where you're going to make the money.
Yeah.
In the long term, yes, it's safe to say that as less and less get available and it gets fleshed out, and we can pretty much say, hey, there can't be any more raw base set stuff in the world.
Yeah.
But maybe that are in good shape.
Yeah, I could see Neo Destiny booster boxes and Neo cards, for example. Like, I could see most of those Neo Holos that are going for $500, $600 reach $15,000, $20,000 one day with how few are in the world. I could also see those cards not moving at all. I could see those cards going down in value. Right. And so that's what I want to put that mindset out there, is how speculative these items are. They are rare enough that if there's huge demand and people really want them, and people with lots of money want them, they could pop extraordinarily high. But there's also people just may move on from this and not want them. So it's so dependent on that demand, on that desire, and we just don't know. We just don't know, in my opinion, where we're at with that stuff. I could see those booster, when someone says I can see these Charizards or these booster boxes going over $1 million, it's like, of course I can see that too, but I can also see them, going down 80%, that sort of thing. And I think that's what seems oddly to separate me from everyone else, is that a lot of other people don't seem to see how it could go down. And that's the part that to me scares me about the what I would call irrational exuberance, around right. these items. So yeah. So Pat Flynn sent us a super chat. He said,
"Whoa, hey.
Matt, do you think people will eventually pay a premium for Japanese versus English, since quality and art are often better? Any particular type or set of Japanese of interest to you?"
Okay, yeah. Pay a premium for Japanese versions versus the English versions?
Yeah.
You take it. More than me historically there on that kind of stuff.
It's possible. That is what I will say. It is possible that, because really what's holding it back and always held it back was just that people preferred the English. There isn't something that's so dramatically different, or that the supply is so necessarily so much more. I have really no idea how much Japanese product there is versus English product. And I don't know how much Japanese product is still in Japan, mint in these card shops and, behind a lot of stuff. I don't really know. I know they certainly have it there. I also don't know how many Japanese collectors have this stuff and are sitting there and holding it, and maybe will never want to sell it or whatever. So there's so much I don't know about the Japanese market in terms of being like, these items are really, really that rare, and I really feel confident. I feel more confident in the English numbers than I feel confident in the Japanese numbers in terms of how the pop reports, in part because the English were always more expensive, and I think the English people were the ones doing the grading and pushing the grading. And so there could be a lot more mint stuff in Japan. But for a long time, I know Americans and Westerners have been going to Japan, sourcing these cards out of Japan, trying to find them, bringing them here, buying them, grading them, making huge amounts of money, crazy profit, just bringing them over and grading them and then selling them. So that's what I would say about that. So the big question is going to be supply, because you have, on the one hand, slightly easier to grade overall on average for Japanese, and you have a holo in every pack outside of base set on the supply side, which makes Japanese potentially worse. But there could be a lot more English product in the world than there ever was printed Japanese, or there could be a lot more Japanese. So we don't really know on the supply side. Demand side, I would say, I agree with you. I think that it's possible Japanese could become more in demand than English at some point in Pokemon's history. Would I put money on that? No, I wouldn't. I put my money on the English, but I don't. But that's just because that's what it's been, not because what it's always going to be. That makes sense. There isn't something that's stopping that from happening necessarily. I see. What do you think?
There'd have to be a big push of people wanting and desiring those cards. Obviously, the population of Japan is way lower than the U.S. and English speaking in general. So, I mean, just demand is going to be the more people that are going to want Pokemon cards, English or Japanese, are going to be English speaking, and they're going to be. I mean, there's have to be a big push for somebody that influence that kind of decision making, or people just to realize, yeah, these are the original versions of these cards. They're much better, and they are superior. Then they should be more expensive. It would take that kind of push.
What's super interesting is what's happening in Modern. You have CP6 selling for twice as much as Evolutions. Fascinating.
Right. And
so that's a big part of that, the major part of that, right, we think is because CP6 is not printed very much, and Evolutions was absolutely printed into, obliterated, right? It's the most printed box ever, probably, in Pokemon.
Definitely. So, I mean, hands down, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
That Evolutions was printed probably multiple more times than any other Pokemon product.
Yeah. But when we look at Pokekayun, when we look at, we'll see what Shining Fates and what's the Japanese version? I'm blanking right now. Shining Fates and
Shining Starvey.
Shining Starvey, thank you. And then we'll see, and we'll have to see over time how Hidden Fates does versus like the Shiny GX. Like we'll have to see how these things do. But I preferred the Shiny GX. I liked the look of those better. But so as a pure collector, I have mostly a complete PSA 10 set, PSA 9 and 10 set of Shiny GX, all of the Shiny Vault, cards.
Yeah.
Because I liked the Japanese better, but that was purely as a collector. I built that set and graded a lot of that myself, or a decent amount of that myself, at a cheap price. Will that do better? Will those be better investments than Hidden Fates because there's less Shiny GX? Maybe, and if Japanese really becomes more popular and there's less of it printed of those Modern, you're going to see those cards be a humongously better value than the English, generally speaking. And actually, Shiny GX wasn't that easy to grade. Versus if you look at CP6 versus Evolutions, the Evolutions Charizard and PSA 10 extremely difficult to grade. The CP6 Charizard extremely easy. I have like 8 or 9. Like every one I get my hands on comes back a 10 in the CP6 Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's so many factors. Like everything else, there's just so much to consider. And the market is so irrational right now that even though I'm considering all of these like mathematical things and coming up with like my own approximations, so much right now doesn't even care about supply. It's all about the demand side. It's where the attention is. It's where the hype is in the short term. But my advice is go away from hype, go towards value,
right,
as usual.
Knife Graffiti says that Logan Paul has to make a video about Japanese cards. That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that would be that man has a crazy amount of influence and power. All right, you seen any other questions? Should I go back to the top here?
Let's see.
Read them out if you see something you like.
Yeah, throw some more questions, guys. We'll see.
All right, so Dima P says, is getting into selling bulk Pokemon cards a good idea since it's much cheaper and there isn't as much of a risk? What do you think, Mason? It's a great question.
Buying bulk like to resell or buying it to collect or?
So selling. So getting into selling bulk Pokemon cards a good idea.
There will always be big companies out there that can buy it cheaper and sell it for more than you. So I would not, I would not personally, like I sell my bulk to a bigger company to take care of because they will pay me more than what I'm willing to pay somebody else to get theirs. So it's bulk buying and selling is a huge, huge business for a lot of stores. You know, LGS is, there's people that sit on millions and millions of these cards and do bulk lots on eBay and Amazon, and are going to be able to sell it for a lot more than you are, and like I said, buy it for a lot cheaper than you are. So it's hard to.
I like your thinking, Dima, that it's less risk. But
Yes,
it's
of course,
also
yeah.
an incredible amount of work for extremely low margin.
Right.
And you have people who are doing it, they're making a business out of it, I imagine, Mason, because they're doing such high volume and they have such a great network in place and they have such a big business. And then they create, I imagine, these like mystery lots on eBay that we see, or, you know, whatever,
Right.
to get rid of, you know, to sell this and get rid of it somehow.
Right. And I have made up lots for my own store to do that kind of stuff. And yeah, they sell reasonably well, but I would never be able to sell locally the amount of cards that I get. I mean, I buy bulk, you know, thousands of cards, and I, once every month or so, I call up my guy that buys it, and he takes care of it for me. And I make, for the time investing, it's not worth it to me, obviously. But hey, if you got somebody that can buy, sell bulk to for 5 cents, and you're buying it for 3 cents, 2 cents per card is pretty good if you can get rid of it for that. So.
Yeah, I remember it's been interesting to just kind of watch the trajectory of how much bulk is worth. It's not my area at all of expertise, but I follow it a little bit because it's important to understand, I think, all areas of the market, and because it really can tell you the demand, I think, in a lot of ways, and how much product is out there. Give you some sense. So it's been interesting to see, it going from 5 cents a card to like 1 cent a card to people lots of places not even wanting it at all, to back up 3 cents to, all these different sorts of things. It's interesting, but not the game that I have any insider knowledge into, really.
No, yeah, it's a huge amount of work and effort and sorting and going through and pulling things that are worth it and not worth it. Yes, there's money there, but selling it off is always the big part. You can buy it all day. There's tons of bulk out there. There's no question that people are sitting on tons and tons of bulk they want to get rid of, and you can buy it for fairly cheap. But selling it to where it's worth your time is obviously the big point of whether it's worth it or not.
SDC says, can we move the buying groups to start purchasing energy cards?
Hey, I got a bunch of energy cards, so yeah, please, let's do it.
We would all do pretty well if we could get a whole group of people to buy all our energy cards.
Yeah, I probably got like 250,000 energies, so yeah, they would do that. I'd be okay.
Pokey Garage says he bought 100 Jesse and James to get PSA graded. Whew.
Hey, you know what? Good luck. I hope you do well.
I think, depending on your price point, you might very well do well. You might do very well. We'll see. You have to get some follow-up because, it's very interesting.
NavZ says, how heavily printed is the new Hidden Fate TTB reprints? I was looking to hold a few cases for the next few years. I'll take this one.
Yeah.
I got 10% of what I asked for the Hidden Fate preprints. I got them super early. I know that there's some places that are just now seeing them, and I don't know how that happened. But all my distributors that I buy from have been out and shipped theirs like a month ago. So I would say it was very, very small. We had always known it was going to be very small, but Hidden Fates, I say it all the time. It's one of my favorite, and I think it has the most value in sealed and even single raw cards of any set here in the modern time. So if you're sitting on a couple cases of that, I think you're going to be okay, because we saw it go from pushing $300 last summer to when they announced the reprint down to $150. I sold all my boxes at $150. The demand is there, and I would not be surprised in 3, 4, or 5 months it goes right back up to $250, just because it's an awesome set. There's nothing stopping that set from going and becoming more and more collectible. And if the pack opening channels continue to do and rip through stuff like they have been doing, I think that is a prime set that people are going to want to see open and pay a premium to have opened. So I think it's a good hold personally.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think that there's although I question the long-term investability of these types of things, short to medium term, they're absolute home runs.
Yeah.
Because of all of the YouTubers opening these things up. Hidden Fates is going to be popular and wanted easily for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. No one's going to forget about Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates is a crucial set. Same thing with Evolutions. No one's going to forget about Evolutions. And Evolutions now, continue to tick up. I hear someone saying that in Germany they're selling it for 800 to 1,000 euro, and that people are buying, people are doing these pack openings and making tons of money off of it. Someone in the chat saying,
yeah,
it's the Evolutions kind of went up, right? It was at 100 forever, went up to about 450 in a few weeks, went up to 500, came back down to 400. Now it's back up to 700 or so in the States, or 650, 600 to 700 probably. You can still get them for, but it's having another big surge here. So, it just goes to this idea that there's enough demand in Pokemon that supply doesn't matter so much. It's more where the interest is. It's what people want and what they want to buy right now. That's short-term driving these sorts of things. So predicting that and where that's going to go, though, is very difficult.
Right. I mean, obviously nobody knows, but nobody knows what Pokemon's going to make in the next 5 years that could influence or change the price of Hidden Fates. But I think it's a good set.
Yeah.
I say if you'd see the set wanting to be opened, even just by casual people, just for nostalgia sake, just because it's a cool set to open, that it's going to have sealed value. Pretty much bank on that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Hidden Fates is guilty of everything right now, which is that people are obsessed with money and obsessed with the big money pools, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So, so I think that what's so great about Hidden Fates, unlike Champion's Path, which is that Hidden Fates has so many fun hits and so many cards that people want to see, that it creates such great content for people to open it on a line. And it's so fun to open because odds are you are going to get a full art, after 10 packs or so, 5 to 10 packs, and you're certainly going to get a baby shiny. You're going to get something that feels exciting, that feels fun, that's going to give you that hit. And you have those big hitters, in Charizard, in the Evolutions, in Mewtwo, some of these cards that are really have gone for quite a bit of money in PSA 10.
Yeah.
So really appealing to the gamblers. Let's see. I'm going through the middle of our chat. People are responding to things we've already talked about. Good conversations going on here. I have sorry. Did you see something, Mason?
No. So somebody asked about cosmic reprints happening or any other recent reprints. The only thing that I have that I heard and actually have numbers in to receive of a reprint is Darkness Ablaze has another reprint that is coming out soon.
Oh, I didn't hear that. When was that announced?
It's been talked about. I don't know if we got the whole reprint back in December.
Okay.
So they may be just rolling it out in a couple waves. I wouldn't be surprised if it's all from the same reprint. But yeah, I've had multiple distributors that are saying Darkness Ablaze, and I'm actually able to put in numbers for more Darkness Ablaze. So Cosmic Eclipse was announced, November? And I have heard nothing more of that. I can put no numbers in for that. So I don't know what happened to it. It's weird.
Yeah. Okay. Huh.
But that is the only thing I know of that's being reprinted.
Yeah.
Even Vivid Voltage, I have not had any chance to put in numbers for. So
yeah,
that's disturbing. But
yeah, I mean, you'd think if they're going to reprint some of these less popular sets, they're definitely going to reprint Vivid Voltage, because of how fun that was to open. But
oh yeah, I do not doubt that it's not open for putting numbers in yet. But yeah, I have heard nothing, so I'm going to report nothing.
Yeah. What are your Mason? What are your thoughts on the 25-year jumbos?
The way that they're doing it is really weird to me. They come in packs. and we're going in reverse order. So Galar's first, and then we'll go backwards. That's interesting to me. Jumbos, I'm not big on. I don't really like jumbos. I have stacks of jumbos. I don't pay money on them, but people, as soon as I tell them I don't pay for them, they just give me them. They just give them big stacks of them. So I have huge stacks of them. I give them away to kids or whatever when they come in. That's about the only good of jumbos. But obviously these are going to be collectible. They're making a nice binder for them, so the whole set of them will be nice to have. If we have a binder with the whole set, that would be nice. But I'm not a big fan of jumbos. Do you have any jumbos in your collection, Jake?
I have some jumbos. There are only a couple that I take really good care of that are really cool looking
Right.
to me. I
Yeah.
like the look of jumbos, but the problem with jumbos is how do you store them, the amount of space, how do you keep them in good condition? Are you going to buy those like bigger sleeves for them? You know, what are you going to do, and then how are you going to display them? You know, I think really cool ones, I mean, there are jumbos of trophy cards, like extremely rare, you know, really interesting, cool jumbos. So, you know, there are some jumbos that I think are very worth getting potentially framed and are really beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
even like
definitely.
the vintage, like, you know, legendary box topper, you got the Skyridge box topper, you know, these types of cards are really cool looking.
Yeah.
And then and then you've got the endless amount of jumbos from these like GX tins, you know, or not tins, GX boxes, and like just so many of those.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and they get beat up so easily. And, you know, I have stacks of those. Some I've just thrown out, that any ones that weren't in pretty good condition, I literally just threw in the garbage. The other ones I've kept, but I don't find myself going to them too often. I do once in a while. I do like to look at them once in a while, but they're not up there on my list of things I like to go look at and spend time with as a collector.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't see jumbos being of value, but these, of course, yeah, they're going to be collectible, and people will want them, I think.
Yeah.
The binder is probably going to be the hardest thing to find, is trying to find the binder, because who knows if they're going to print that initially and then never print it again. You know, I hope that they save some back so that people late to the party can have the binder.
That'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Yeah.
I ordered more binders than I did
Yeah.
the packs of stuff, so give you an idea.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So those you're already ordering on.
Yes, we had a week. My main distributor, I had a week to put numbers in for those, because obviously they were shortly announced, and I saw them on the website before the announcement for Pokemon for the 25th anniversary. It's like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. What is this thing? So I didn't touch it yet, but then they announced it. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, hobby stores maybe missed out on those just because we didn't have a huge window to order those. So I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here.
I mean, you want to talk about Shining Fates? You want to talk about if it's going to be the best modern set ever?
Whatever question you feel like answering, shout them out there, Mason.
I mean, we can do like a little rapid fire thing. I think Shining Fates will be less desirable than Hidden Fates. If you look at like from a 3-year out window, I think Hidden Fates was the original, the first of. We talked about that earlier. The first of something. So, and I think the Pokemon are better in Hidden Fates than in Shining Fates. I think a lot of people have nostalgia for. There's more nostalgic Pokemon in Hidden Fates than there is in Shining Fates. Because you have the VMAX Charizard, that's a shiny, and then you have the Ditto. What else is there? The Lapras. I just don't think there's very good Pokemon, especially in the full art GX or V for this series of Vs. That Hidden Fates just knocks those out of the park. Personally, I think it's. If I had to bet on one, if I had to sit on a case of one for 5 years, I would pick Hidden Fates.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing will be how popular are these new Pokemon to kids today versus how popular are the older Pokemon. And
Sure.
when we think about how these sets age in the long run, but I think that clearly the older Pokemon are more popular to most of
Right.
people. And right now,
Sure.
Hidden Fates just has other than Pikachu, which why do we not have a freaking shiny Pikachu in that? Although
True, yeah.
Pikachu doesn't look the best as part of it. As part of the point, it doesn't look any different. It looks almost the same. But they could have done something maybe to make it look cool. But outside of that, it's just got one favorite after the next in that set. So whereas this set, it's I still don't know the names of all the Pokemon to be completely so of all the newest Pokemon. But I wouldn't sleep on the fact that it's possible they could become more popular. But again, even if they do, as you were saying, and as we've been saying here, Hidden Fates, is the first, as I was talking about, you can go back to all my old videos. They're going to make a Hidden Fates 2, right? And that there's going to be a line of these Hidden Fates type sets because it was so popular. This is the Hidden Fates 2. They're going to make more of these in some way or shape or form. Somehow they're going to figure out ways of making it.
Definitely. They will keep making this.
They may only do 2 sets like this with this exact design, but they're going to do another all shiny set. They'll probably change the set design. Who knows? It's all speculation.
Right.
Anything that is a huge hit for Pokemon, they're going to figure out what made that a huge hit and how do we one up it or reproduce it, that type of thing. So I agree with you though. If I had to buy one or the other for an investment purposes or those sorts of things, I would definitely go for the more proven older set.
Right.
But who knows what print run's going to be on this product, and if they're dramatic print run difference, down the line, they really reprint one a bunch and not the other for some inexplicable reason.
We saw these cards being leaked and talked about back in the end of September.
Yeah.
When so Shining Fates has been obviously in production at least since then.
Yeah.
And I know that people are getting huge numbers back. I know stores that are getting several thousands of the ETBs, so it seems to be pretty well stocked. So I think as far as whether or not it was printed more than Hidden Fates, I don't know, but there's at least a lot of this product that's going to be out there and all available in big box stores and all that too. So I wouldn't worry about it being, like Vivid Voltage where it runs out. Hopefully not. I don't know. I could be wrong. At this point, who knows? But
yeah. Jacob asks, do you think Shining Legends blowing up recently is temporary? What are your thoughts on Shining Legends, Mason, from your experience with it?
Shining Legends in this big peak has exploded in value. I remember the non-full art shinings from those being $5. I mean, you can find them sort of super cheap.
Yeah.
And obviously that was obviously a huge chance for people that knew and had the presence of mind to think about, hey, yeah, in 2-3 years when this all dries up, people are going to want these, and of course they do. The peak in the end of the last year just accelerated that. Whereas it would have been maybe 2 years from now where they would have been at this level, or 2 years from now, 3-4 years after it's been printed, where the value is going to be where it's at now. But it was obvious that we were going to get to that point. But yeah, it just really accelerated.
I think I have left maybe about 5 or 6 or 7 10s each or so.
Yeah.
And I've sold a decent amount. So I am selling, and I normally don't talk about this on the channel. I did sell some of that, but honestly, I don't really know what's going to happen with them. I think they're great cards. For me, it's a hedging risk thing, and I have enough. When things go up a certain amount, I have a plan of what percentage of the cards I have I'm actually going to sell off, and at what price points am I going to sell off, and how much am I going to sell off. And so for me, I just kind of stick to my plans. But yeah, those cards were great value back then. But you have to understand that they really, like, the market was so different back then. And for $5-10, you were almost in the realm of buying like first edition Jungle PSA 9 holos.
Yeah,
and things
for
like
sure.
So people who bought a lot of those didn't necessarily make more money than people who bought a lot of anything. So it was really like anything you bought a lot of that was actually very collectible, you've done extremely well, including the level X's that were $1 to $5, the Evolutions Charizard, which was only $3 to $5, those Holo Charizards. So up to 10 kind of it fell into for a while. $10. But so, I think that they're cool looking cards, they're shining cards, they have that vintage feel to them, yet they're modern cards because they're those the way they texture them is similar, right, to the Neo Destiny cards, so they're more similar to those. There's a lot going for those cards. The problem is how easy they are to pull, and the problem is how many more of those there are. So again, I think that the Neo Destiny Shining cards are still, they're when you try to do the evaluations here, people want to save $600 and buy one of those cards when they're not the same product. One is vastly rarer, older, and more historic than the other, even though Shining Legends as a modern product is incredibly cool and I love it. So Shining Legends, Hidden Fates, home runs when it comes to modern product and modern cards that I would go after. For me, my three, and maybe it'd be interesting to hear yours as well. My sort of three biggest things are Hidden Fates, Shining Legends, and modern and like Pikachu promos. Are kind of depending, particularly if they don't get hyped, are for me the three things that stand out the most from this whole era. From the and obviously Evolutions stands out a lot. I just don't like I actually don't like the cards. That's my problem with Evolutions. My favorite card from that set is actually the Mega Full Art Charizard, and there's just so many of those. And what's interesting is that was the card that was actually going for quite a good value for a while, instead of the Holo Charizard. The Holo Charizard was worth nothing. The Mega Full Art Charizard was the one that actually went up to $250 initially, before tons were in PSA 10. Before tons were graded, and then there were like 5,000 all of a sudden, pretty quickly graded, and then it came down to $50. And since then, I don't know what it's doing now. Maybe it's 200 to 300 now. Maybe it's even more. I don't know. But when you know the price history of a set like that, it's harder to, I think, see the value. But Hidden Fates and Shining Legends make a lot more sense to me as to why they're doing so well in the modern, particularly in an era where people love modern. And these price points are just a lot lower than vintage. And so a lot more people can afford a $300 amazing, cool looking PSA 10 than they can afford to go up and buy the $1,500, Shining Raichu.
Right.
It's sort of what it is.
Yeah.
So, even though I think that at $1,500, it's a much better purchase than $300 for me, if you have the money to do it.
Right. I mean, cost is prohibitive in a lot of ways to collecting. So you kind of just got to get what you can and what you can pay for. So.
Yeah.
Shining Legends was a very hard to find set. I remember that's when it came out, when I was first opening my store. So I got hardly any of it. So very, very hard for me to find and get a hold of. So I liked Legendary Treasure before that, though. I liked that set too. Very unique foiling that we haven't never seen again. The Radiant series in that, I think, is very undervalued and underappreciated as well, just because it has such cute, unique stuff to it. I love the Flareon full art in that set. It's beautiful.
Yep, I have a number of those sitting around. Yep. Those I got in mass and collections. Like, I didn't go after them, but I just got a bunch of them because I was buying a bunch of collections at that time, and people had a lot of them.
Right, and they are extremely common. They are extremely common, and they were cheap for forever. I mean, I'm talking $2-3.
Yeah,
cheap. Yeah. But I think.
I mean, I was paying probably 20 cents for it. 20
exactly.
But I was buying a bunch of them, type of thing.
Right.
So if you were just going to buy one, $1 to $3, you could probably find it online. $3 with shipping.
Right.
But that was the time, very, very different time in Pokemon. So when we think everything relatively in terms of what they move, so I don't think that relatively speaking, it's not that modern has gone up so much more than, vintage has gone up so much more than modern. The biggest winners have been, for the most part, have been vintage and some of the middle eras in terms of percentage growth on cards. But what's really the real question to me is, even though vintage has moved up a lot in percentage and modern has moved up a lot in percentage, what's going to hold its value over time? Mm-hmm. And what are the trajectories of these things going to look like in the short, medium, and long term? And clearly modern has a ton of heat and popularity right now. So I would not be betting against modern in the short term because of all that demand, to be honest, but things can change radically. So be interesting to see what happens. But I know do you like I have a question for you. So when you're looking to buy collections, are you are you just sort of, I imagine you're just sort of buying anything that's good across anything. You're sort of open to anything, but are there specific sets, specific eras that you look for that you feel like are going to sell the best in your store? You know, your customers are looking for the most, that sort of thing.
No. I mean, that is things I'm thinking about when I buy cards, as far as like how aggressive I am on it, how fast I can move it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if you are going to move it very quickly, you don't need to make as big of a margin. But if
exactly.
It's sit on it, just for the audience, if you're going to sit on it for a long time, you have to make a much bigger margin because it's taking up space, that type of thing.
For sure, yeah. But no, when I buy collections, I buy the whole things. I try to buy everything at once.
Yeah.
Just because I would hate to skip on something because I don't personally think it's going to sell. Just because I don't want to miss out on any opportunity to down the road. If it sits in my store and all of a sudden something gets popular, yeah, I want to have it in the back or already listed and ready to go when it does take off. So I don't ever say no to anything. No.
Yeah.
Very, very little. I mean, unless it's like, I don't know, like the really, really obscure, like old, like Italian and German WotC stuff. I don't normally buy that, but everything else I take. Yeah.
Those are always the questions that baffle me the most. So I get and baffle in terms of I'm not sure, not that they're surprising. I think they're good questions, but baffle in terms of like I really don't know.
Right.
Like base set, non-English, non-Japanese. You know, I know Chinese are fairly rare, and
yes.
and I know that, you know, rarer than some of the others, and I know that like Portuguese, there's like supposedly there's like a pretty big fan. there are a bunch of Pokemon fans there.
Yeah, sure.
So there are a few things I hear, but it's like I always say, like, there could be a great market, untapped market, if you could corner one of those markets and sell to a country or a place that's interested in Pokemon if they have the money to do it. I have no idea. It's so far out of my expertise, but it shows how big the market is and diverse and how many different things you can do, and different ways you can make money. But that's one. Yeah, that's an interesting one with these base set Italian, Dutch, you know, all these things.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I'll take everything. I'm not picky. I'll take somebody's whole binder and pay them for the binder, even just because if something comes into my store, I don't want it to leave.
Yeah.
If I can hit their margins.
What percentage now are you getting from people contacting you through YouTube online, selling you stuff, if you're willing to share, versus people coming in the store, in terms of, are you getting more collections now via social media and online presence, or are you getting more collections still kind of in the store?
No, yeah. I've had people ship me things, you know, from further away. I've had people say, hey, I drove 4 hours to sell you my collection here, which is awesome, and I love it.
Because they saw you on YouTube, or?
Yes. Yeah, awesome. It's crazy. And I've had locals that have been coming for me for years. I was like, man, I just saw your YouTube videos. This is awesome. I didn't know. And even people that were local that saw the videos that didn't know I was there. I mean, I've had both of those things. So,
I mean, I want to come visit you, you know, at some point. It'd be fun.
Well,
if I'm ever in that area to come by a card shop. I love card shops, you know. So I imagine a lot of people feel that way, you know, and it's something that Squeaks and I were talking about, is just like the amazing business opportunity developing a social media platform is, in terms of, you know, getting yourself out there, connecting to people, having people know you, because now they get to know you a little bit as a person, and it makes them want to do business with you so much more than just a random store that they've never been in, and they don't know who that person is, and they don't know if they're going to give them a good deal. You know, it adds so much credibility and confidence to the whole process for them to just get to know you this way.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier personally about how fragile reputation and how people view you.
Yeah.
And how important it is to, and I have not been always the best about, not that I've never been transparent, because I've always told people, but maybe I'm being too transparent in that I'm like, why I do things and business based on business decisions. But
do you want to talk about what happened on your channel and the lessons you've learned from it, or
no, I mean, I haven't addressed it on my personal channel, but I'm happy to talk with you and see how everybody in the chat reacts to that.
I think the chat would be interested. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, Pat, oh my God, Mason, why don't you let, Pat's on my mind. Pat Flynn's on my mind. Mason, why don't you?
He's on all of our minds.
I know, he's everywhere. Why don't you let why don't you just explain kind of what happened a little bit and how people reacted, just so people can have the context of what happened recently for you.
Okay. So the whole crux of my channel and how I would like people to think my channel is more in line of like less about investing, flipping, whatever, and more of like what's coming down the pipe and what to like think of and how to make connections of like modern product and when modern product and where it's at in production and when to expect it, so that you can make smarter decisions.
Yeah.
If you blow your money on something that's, I have hundreds and hundreds of boxes coming, obviously you should probably scale back the money you spent. So that's what my channel and my business in general, when we put stuff out there, is what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And
so people somewhat insider-ish, info on when your store's getting stuff, how much it's going to get, to give them a broader view of, should I buy this modern product now or should I wait a month, generally speaking, and get a better deal potentially because there'll be more supply then, that type of thing. Okay.
So when Shining Fates was announced and we all knew a set like Shining Fates was coming, I told people, because of past history and things, when it was very first announced, there's going to be a bunch of stores that are putting out hundreds and hundreds of these boxes with no knowledge at all of what and how much they're getting. So I made a video about telling people not to pre-order Hidden Fates at wild prices, and that if you buy it at MSRP, that it's not a guarantee that you're going to get it. Because we just seen with Champion's Path, people pre-order a bunch of stuff of Champion's Path from like GameStop and had all their stuff canceled. So I put out a video and said, hey, if you buy it at MSRP, pre-order it. Obviously, that's going to be the safest route, but just be prepared. It might get canceled because, again, people just want your money and they want free loans. And at the time, there was another store that kind of
unpack that for those who haven't thought through that. It basically what you're doing for pre-order companies. They don't have the product yet in a pre-order. They're expecting a certain amount of product, and they're selling their customers the idea that they're going to get the product and then they're going to fulfill the orders. But you have to send them money right away, even before the product comes. And so basically, you're sort of loaning the business your money without getting what's the word? Interest. Oh my God, mind going blank.
It's a free interest loan for a business.
Interest loan for a business
So I can put out pre-orders for Shining Fates, have enough money to buy all the product, and just sit there and not have to worry about it because I know that money is already for the product is already there.
Yeah, and
which is good and it's nice
because it can lock in for you that the person's not going to charge you above the MSRP. You know what you're getting it as the buyer, and for the seller knows that they're going to sell a certain amount of it. They already have that money, and they get that money because a lot of these businesses, and you can speak to this, Mason, run so close to the vest in terms of cash, and you getting a little bit more cash up front can help you then put that money into something else, which then you can flip. It can be a major help. So it can be these win scenarios. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So that video ran its course.
Yeah.
So, and then when I got my numbers, I immediately made a video about, hey, stores are getting the information back. I know how much numbers I'm getting for the ETBs, and we're going to get more of that information here in the next couple weeks. So, if you're going to pre-order, now's the time to pre-order. And in that sense, and at the same time, because I had just got my numbers, I put up my numbers for pre-release. And I was telling people, go to your local card shops, go to them and talk about what they're doing on pricing, because I am selling at MSRP or at market, but they may not be. They may not have a web store. They may not be a Pokemon store. They may be happy and willing to sell you stuff at that MSRP price and be happy with it. And I can see where when people saw my $100 for my ETB, and I'm telling people don't buy that at that price, go and search and hunt down at MSRP. Yes, that's obviously doesn't look good. So I completely understand how people were upset by that. It was not intentional, and trust me when I say, if I had not made that video, I would have sold all the 100 that I put on my website regardless. it only would have taken 3 hours instead of the hour and a half that it took. So if it was some sort of people thinking I was being manipulative or taking advantage of my presence on YouTube, I can totally see where that would be the case, but it really wasn't even crossing my mind when I put it out. It was just the same thing where I said, I got my numbers, I did what I told people that stores would be doing, and it all just hit at the same time. But
so what could you have done differently?
I guess what I could have done differently was, there's a ton of people that say that I could limit the numbers, and maybe they don't understand how difficult it is with selling platforms to put caps and stuff like that, and they don't understand if somebody buys too much that I have to refund that money, but I don't get that credit card fees back. So I'm losing money that way if I have to do a bunch of refunds because I still have to pay those charge transactions. So there's complications to limiting and stuff like that. So it should be no surprise to anybody that I talk about it in every video. It's not a surprise that when I say I sell at market, that's what I sell at. And that if I was going to put up for pre-orders, it'd be at the market price. So I can see where people want me to be like, I'm gonna name drop, sorry, Danny Phantom, and be out there and sell for below what the market is going for, because obviously he's building a community, he wants that community to grow, and that's what he has going on in his life. My channel is to provide information, but it's also to develop my business and grow my business. So that is my goal. Whereas I'm not in the same level. I'm not looking to grow a community as much as I am just to put out videos that people might get some information from. And if they want to buy from me, fine. So.
Well, I think there's this interesting idea of, when I think of like what Rudy from Alpha Investments did, like there's this interesting idea of like, can you build a model with a YouTube community if you're a store where you can find a mutually beneficial sort of deal where you can give them, like they could pay you, what he does, right, is he has a membership, and then and then you can buy boxes from him at like $80 or whatever it is, $6.99 shipped, or whatever right. He's doing for his things, which can be under market at times or slightly under market. But the thing is he's making money off the membership. He's getting money in his pocket from that. And he also is so huge. Everyone right. is in a different position that they can sell at different prices, and they make different decisions. So, for Rudy, Rudy makes a lot of money on the ads. Rudy makes a lot of money on a lot of things in his process. It'd be interesting to see. I think someone in Pokemon eventually should probably copy what Rudy is doing, because it's pretty dang successful, or do some of what he's doing with those types of subscription models. Potentially, I imagine there's some pretty decent thing in that. Although with Pokemon, the numbers can be so crazy that it might not make sense right now, because you can't get the boxes. It's so hard to get the boxes
right
now, and when you get the boxes, they're going for double immediately. It's just such a crazy environment, whereas you would want the reverse environment where you get a lot of boxes and it really does sell for that original price to be able to give that to people. But I think that it's fair to be like, hey guys, I'm a business. I'm not going to be giving deals to people watching my channel. I'm going to sell at market. This is what I'm doing, but that doesn't mean I'm not giving you helpful advice that's actually going to help you succeed in this space and do better in this space at the same time. So,
right. And I even see the chat, and I acknowledge all you guys' opinion, and I obviously I take that into consideration all the time. I'm listening to you guys all the time about what you think about that practice. I can be against a practice of things being crazy and priced out like they are, and people scalping on that product. I can be against that, but just because I'm against that doesn't mean that I have to be a white knight and go against what makes business sense to me.
Yeah, so I think it's very obvious that you shouldn't be selling for underpriced. You have employees, you have a business. That seems just ridiculous and unfair. And frankly, already prices on these things, the margins that a lot of these businesses make, people are not making millions of dollars running card stores right now, guys, at least by selling the product specifically. If they have broader models, they can make quite a bit of money like Rudy. But what I will say, and I think some people are saying here, and I would, if you feel comfortable responding, people are saying,
yeah, I will.
It's the Cardinal told not to pre-order till the numbers came through. Mm-hmm. So people didn't pre-order, so they didn't get it for the cheaper amount. And then rather than you selling it for the cheaper amount that they could have gotten if they had pre-ordered, now they have to pay the higher amount. So for me, one question I have for you is, were you clear with them that if they don't pre-order, although they're not lending their money to people, they may have to pay a higher amount?
I did not make it clear enough.
Because that's the gamble, right?
Clearly, I did not make it clear enough, because that was not who came across as what the takeaway was. So
me, that's the thing, right? It's that, and for me, why I pre-order, I take that gamble. I say, I'm going to give you this money up front. The chances I'm going to get my box, because I think this is going to go to 120. I did that with Vivid Voltage, even though I wasn't sure I was going to get my product. I did, because the person was a reputable person and ended up selling to me. But that's the pro of. So I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. Please finish your answer.
No, I did not make it clear enough that if you go to pre-order it, obviously only pay MSRP, but do so knowing that if people are taking pre-orders that they don't have their numbers yet, and you may be canceled. And I think was what I did in my video, and I thought that was the point I was making and I was trying to make. Mm-hmm. But clearly that is not what came across. And obviously, with the title of the video, and if you just go off the title of the video, yeah, it can be seen that I was telling people to not pre-order. But
and maybe I'm missing something, but my understanding is that the pro of pre-ordering, and this to me should be the message, is that the pro of pre-ordering is that you can get it for cheaper. The con of pre-ordering is that your money could be out. You could be out your money for months, and you may get canceled and not get it.
Right. I mean,
and you'll get your money back. You'll get the return. You'll get your money back probably, but by the time you get your money back, it's months later, and you could have bought something else with that money. But exactly. Now, and so for me, I pre-order on items that I think are going to go up a lot after. So I pre-ordered on Vivid Voltage because I thought Vivid Voltage was going to go up a lot, and of course it ended up going up a lot because there's just so much hype at that time, and the Amazing Race was just super cool, and I just thought that was going to be a fun set to open, and people were going to be wanting it. So I pre-ordered that at the $80 mark, a couple of months earlier. And instead of paying 125 or 130, I got it for 80 because I pre-ordered. So clearly pre-ordering is a good thing to do in some circumstances, but it may not be in all circumstances. Is that accurate, or am I getting something wrong?
In a traditional market, yes, that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
The market is not typical right now.
Yeah.
There is no massive amount of this product.
Yeah.
And obviously, if I was taking pre-orders, and in the past, if I took pre-orders, I may do 10% or $10 off a box or something like that, especially if you're buying it in quantity.
Yeah.
But there's no product there. I have to make the most money possible because I only have so much product that I'm getting.
Yeah.
If I could get hundreds and hundreds of these boxes at my beck and call whenever I wanted to, it'd be different. Obviously, we're not in that scenario. So I have to maximize the amount of money that I'm making on this product because this may be all I get.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing a little bit from that is so the person I pre-ordered from, he lost out on $40 or $45 by sending up to me. So he could have canceled the order and been a jerk, basically, honestly.
Sure. Yeah.
Or he could have decided, I'm not doing any pre-orders for this because I believe so much in this product. So for me, it's a gambling. They're both ways people are gambling. You as a store owner, and correct me if any of this is wrong, but you as a store owner could gamble and say, I'm not going to do pre-orders on this because I think that I'm not going to get enough, one, to fulfill all the pre-orders. And two, even if I do get enough, the box is going to be going for so much over, immediately what the pre-order is at, that I'll be losing money if I do the pre-order. So I'm not going to do the pre-order, which to me makes perfect sense. Why would you do a pre-order on, why is you as a business, would I sell a box for 80 when I could sell it for 125? I would always sell it for 125. I think,
Right.
I don't think there's anything
And
questionable about that. I think what could be the problem here, Mason, is if you didn't explain all of that or those dynamics, and then it misled people. And I didn't even watch these videos, by the way, Mason. So I'm just hearing this from you. And
right. The amount of product is never known to anybody at the time, even to stores when pre-orders happen. And I guarantee you, there's plenty of stores out there right now that do not have Shining Fates pre-orders up because they want to maximize how much they can sell these boxes for.
Yeah.
And that people pre-ordering have expectations that they're gonna get a deal on it.
Yeah.
So I know lots of businesses out there that say, no, I'm not doing any Shining Fates pre-orders because I want to worry about when it's at the hypest and at the release when it could spike and ETBs could be, you can run up to $150.
Yeah, they want to get more money out of it, obviously.
Right.
And that doesn't make them evil in any way. Anyone who has a negative reaction towards that, I don't understand. What is your mindset? Like, it's not there. Like, you're the one who's willing to pay 150. If you don't want it for 150, don't buy it for 150. Someone else will. I mean, it's really odd. For me, the irritation should be at the Pokemon company. Like, that isn't printing enough of it, or the distributors who isn't getting enough out to everyone, or whatever it is.
Right.
It's so strange that someone in a capitalistic society would be angry at someone for not selling something at the highest amount that they could. Now, my issue with you, Mason, or anyone, is the manipulation or the deception. So you're very clear about what you're doing, and I'm doing this because it's going to make me the most money, and you as a consumer can decide whether or not you want to buy from me.
And even though I may be saying that, people still think I'm scuzzy because of that, but that's okay. I understand. And I'm not going to tell you how to feel. Like, if you feel that way, that's fine. And you're not wrong in your feelings. I do not want this scenario to be as it is more than you do. Like, I wish that I could get as much progress as I possibly could, because I'd rather sell 1,000 of these boxes instead of the 200 that I have at 3 times MSRP. I'd rather have the 1,000 at MSRP because I'm making more money. I'm not happy about it. You're not happy about it. I'm not making any more money in the long term, because if I was getting restocks on this product and selling it at MSRP, I'd be making the same amount.
So to me, none of that, that doesn't seem to be the issue that people are having in chat, or my issue. My concern, and I didn't watch your video, is did you tell people not to pre-order without giving them the facts that they might, if they don't pre-order, have to pay more? Did you not tell them that?
No.
So to me, that's an issue, just to be blunt with you.
No, that is absolutely, yes.
Because everything else to me makes perfect sense, but you should have also said, you should say, I wouldn't pre-order if I were you, but you might be losing on, you might have to pay above MSRP. You might have to pay some of the higher prices if you wait.
And if I had the foresight of knowing, and if any of us had the foresight of knowing what prices were going to be like, I mean, that would have been the message. But obviously, I'm new to this. Please don't hate me is basically what I'm trying to get at. And that, yes, I made a mistake.
Whatever credit I can add to you, I'm happy to. As I say, I think that there's a lot of weirdness in Pokemon right now. There are people scamming. There are people deceiving and manipulating intentionally. There are people doing it by accident. There are people leaving out information. And then there are people who are just angry because they can't get their products and are being ridiculous.
Right. And I acknowledge that. Just I'm giving them a platform to take it out on me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I understand. How you make comments on my video is not going to dictate how I run my business.
Yeah. I mean,
ultimately, but yes, obviously, mistakes were made, and now I know better.
All right. So,
yeah.
I mean, the vast majority, of people, I think, are willing to forgive and move on, that type of thing. And I think that it's very tricky to do what you're trying to do. I mean, someone like Rudy has so many, Rudy from Alpha Investment has so many people, not so many, but a number of people who absolutely hate his guts because how much he manipulates things based on his videos, in the sense of like whether he's intentionally manipulating or not. He talks about something, he does something, it has drastic effects on the market, it brings drastic attention to different sorts of things. So,
Right.
if you have to be real with what's happening here and make efforts where you can, and people are going to respond the way they do. There are some people who believe all manipulation's fine. Like everyone should be pushing everything that they have. It's a completely open competitive marketplace, and we should all be trying to sell ourselves and our products as much as possible, and then you have people who are like, not any of that is awful. And then you have everywhere in between. That's the reality of the world we live in. So
I love the chat just being so supportive, but I also know that the folks that are here at Pokenomics are also a lot more level-headed than the majority of people that are clicking on my video, or a majority of the videos out there. So I take it all with a grain of salt regardless. But
although I think it's funny because some people see my videos and think I I'm like a communist who thinks that people shouldn't charge what they can for things. And it's just, people are crazy how they spin.
We all get them. We all get them on YouTube
arguments channel. into whatever they want to spin it into. So it happens everywhere.
Exactly.
Poke Garage donated $5 and says, "You're awesome, Mason. Appreciate your videos." So you're getting
I appreciate them. Yeah.
You're definitely a friend of the channel, and certainly always welcome on. And love to have you here on the Sunday chats. So let's see what else. Should we do like a few more Pokemon questions? Anything else you want to say on that, Mason? I feel like we probably touched on it, but
no. And I'm planning on doing a Q&A myself, and I'll probably do an actual video on it
cool.
and unpack it. So it will be addressed surely now and probably for the rest of the time I have a channel, because it will be what people think of me. And I was always that guy that scalped a very in-demand product that I could sell regardless, because I have a YouTube channel with 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you'll probably be much bigger. So if anything, these types of things when you're smaller, it's good for these things to happen, earlier on, and when you're smaller.
I guess.
Because they're learning lessons, and then as you get bigger, because like it becomes much more horrible and much more difficult to control the narrative. I mean, talk to any huge influencer about how bad, like if some bad narrative comes out and you have, you're not big enough that like all the other YouTubers are making YouTube videos about this mistake you made, because they're not going to get clout from that. Oh, someone
it is being brought up, but
it is. Okay. Fair. Well, I'm wrong about that, but I'm at least not outside of the Pokemon space, like Collective Guru got, for example. So
no, I haven't gone that far, so I guess I'm doing okay. But.
Not that you did anything, but like that. But the reality is that when you get bigger, people are going to have bringing your name into it or bringing you down in unfair and uncharacteristic ways. It becomes more of a risk because they are going to get views and clout from doing that, and that's the reality of this online YouTube world. So we all have to be careful. Part of it's nice having this small community here where I feel safe. Safe from the internet here.
Right.
All right, guys. Any more questions here at the bottom? For Mason, for us, we can go a little bit longer here. Kyler could ask Mason, how has becoming a successful social media personality impacted the way you run your business, if at all?
Thank you, Kyler. Some of us would say I'm not a successful social media personality after that last conversation, but okay. And I don't know if having 11,000 subscribers is making me successful either, but okay. No, even that small amount.
I think it's very successful, and also just the amount of time you're doing it, and you're also clearly hitting a chord.
Right.
So I think that odds are you will continue, to grow and be quite successful. Hopefully this will be a blip and you'll be able to move forward here.
Right. Sorry, the comments are throwing me off because they're funny, not because they're being mean. But
I'll look at the comments and interact.
No. I mean, obviously, the idea behind making a channel or putting anything on social media and growing that sphere is to have more business. So we were lucky enough to have a good baseline that our website and our point of sale system is based off Shopify. So it having an online part of the store is part of the total package is nice to have. So having a platform to talk about and having the website that is, I think is for a LGS is pretty good. So the idea is that we can ship, we can grow our market and ship to people around the country. That was the goal, and I have definitely seen that. We talked about earlier how I have people that travel hours to come see me and visit my store. People that ship things to me from using our buy list on our website that you can go on and price anything, and it's all up to date with what we're paying for it. So
yeah,
the YouTube money is not, trust me, it's not worth the time and effort. And if it was, trust me, I'd be making more videos. But I have a business that is coming first, and I'd love to make videos, and I have ideas to make about videos all the time. But just I also trying to run a business with 7 employees, and I got to do what I got to do with that. So, but no, it's been awesome. It's been largely very supportive, and the people in the comments that people are making, I appreciate everybody. Even if they make negative comments, I appreciate them because it tells me and gives me a barometer whether or not and where I'm at. So it's all important to me. It's all a part of, as my business is growing and doing better and getting more sales, it's all been a net positive. So it's been awesome.
Jarek says, like Mason, I like all your videos, and please stop wearing that white coat.
Oh, come on, Jarek, come on.
I like the white coat.
You don't know how much I had to pay for that white coat.
I agree.
It is an official Pokemon professor's coat, so it's not just a run-of-the-mill lab coat that I paid $10 for on Amazon. It was a collectible at the time that I bought it, and it's probably even more expensive now. But I've had it for years, and I have it around because when I do conventions and stuff, and when I have Pokemon events, I wear it. So it's kind of a little thing. That's cool.
I want to see you do like crazier and wackier and wilder things. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping you're gonna like slowly start to go insane, like Rudy. And
if I get more negative comments, maybe I will. I might drive me to that point.
I want like crazier hair. I want like less and more all over.
It's funny in that like my sideburns get more comments than anything in the videos, basically.
Got to keep them, man. You got to keep the look.
No, I mean it's all about we're watching this for information, but it's entertainment, right? Like YouTube is entertaining. It's the point of watching a channel. If I wasn't entertaining, I thought people probably wouldn't watch me. So I'd like to make it at least something interesting about it.
Kyler Cook says you should do a $10,000 giveaway, a free product to prove your repentant heart.
No, that's fair. That's fair. You know what? I will consider it.
You could just give me $10,000 and then I'd forgive you personally.
Hey, for you, Jake, that may be worth it. I don't know. Yeah, no, the whole waifu Illuminati thing. Yeah, obviously, I'm trying to add more flavor to it and make it more entertaining, and also still giving better information than I have ever given before. So it's.
I think with people going back and forth and arguing a little bit in the comments, I haven't heard anything too negative or too crazy.
Well, that's good.
We don't have a moderator here. And I probably should get one eventually, but I've really been impressed, honestly, with the people in the chat generally not spamming when I go back through and look. And people do argue and get heated and too heated for sure, at times, but people really care. People are passionate. But I do think that going back and forth and having the arguments is great. And I think if someone doesn't agree with you here, don't feel anger towards them or resentment towards them. That's a good thing. That's what this channel, the purpose of this channel is for us to have conversations, and be respectful. And also not that things are not black and white. I can tell you that Mason is not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person.
And we don't know the future, and we don't know what and how things are going to be looking in a month's time, or what the next set release is going to look like. I don't know. I'm just trying to help out because I have some knowledge of how things have been in the past. So,
I can tell you that Mason and I also, although we're not perfect, we don't go to bed at night thinking about how we're going to scam our viewers and how am I going to make that extra $20?
Right. No, yeah. It would ultimately not be worth the time and effort. Let me tell you that. My time would be better spent on my business than making 15-minute YouTube videos twice a week.
Yeah. So, I think that although I think to push back on that in the sake of argument, I think this YouTube stuff's huge for you, and it's gonna. Not only do I think the ad revenue is decent for you, I'm gonna push back.
Oh yeah, it's definitely different. It makes it worth it. Okay.
Yeah, I would guess that you're making, anywhere between 500 and 1,000 on ad revenue a month, which is something.
Wow, show my hand here, Jake. Jeez.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna get blasted on that now because I have all this wonderful YouTube money I'm making.
Yeah, but I think that it's crazy that, like, for me, it's like, why are people uncomfortable being real about what's happening here? I mean, you are getting out of this, you're going to grow your business, you're going to get more attention, you're going to have more customers, you're going to be able to, I mean, Z&G has made a ton of money on his channel by getting his name out there, getting more but he's not dishonest about no one is unaware of the fact that he is making quite a bit of money, and that it's a business. And so I don't think you have to shame. My personal view is I trust you more, and I trust people more who are very upfront about that and explain it, rather than appearing like a perfect good guy saint and that they're getting nothing. Like, I tend to distrust people, and we've talked about this behind. I tend to distrust people who feel so guilty, maybe, or so anxious about the money or whatever, or clout or whatever they're doing, that they feel they need to constantly separate themselves from that or make it look like that's not happening. I think that and that's stuff I've talked about on the channel all the time, is just that when you have someone who is uncomfortable letting you know how much they're making on something, that's when I would question, okay, like, why are they doing that? Is it because that they're afraid that if I knew how much they were making, they'd resent me and they'd hate me now, and
right,
or because really,
there's so many examples that we can say of that, but I'm not going to say it.
Well, at the end of the day, right, you should believe in your content and what you're doing. And if you're making 500 to 1,000 a month, you should work hard to make your content worth that to people, or worth that to the Pokemon community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And other people should feel that way about it. And that's why they're watching and continuing to engage. Now, of course, for them, it's entertainment. It's free. They're not paying you the money. That you're getting the money from, from the people buying the ads. Right. So it's not like they're directly paying you that. But anyone who's upset at a channel making that is silly. But I would, my personal opinion, for what it's worth, is I would encourage you to be honest with that sort of stuff. I think that people shy away from it, and I think that's why this distrust builds, because people try to appear like, I'm just here for you, 100%, and I'm getting nothing from it, versus.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But I think that a lot of big streamers have really found that balance. And, when I watch some of these big Twitch streamers just to see what they're doing and what's going on, they talk about that a lot, and their audience knows it, and they think their audience a lot, and they buy their audience tons of gifts with the money and all sorts of things, because they're making $60,000 a month, just crazy huge amounts on their audiences. So,
but no, when people buy from me and stuff, they always send a message, or they'll say, "Hey, I love your YouTube videos," or whatever. So that is worth, the thousands of negative comments I may get from now and beyond, than knowing that people buy from me because they saw me on YouTube and they think that I'm some sort of reputable person just because of that. That's awesome. I love it.
All right, guys. So any more questions, comments? I have Kingdom Cost saying that he'd be a good mod. So eventually we'll do some mods here, and I don't know. I'm not a real YouTuber, guys. I don't really know. This isn't.
Yeah. Neither of us are. I don't know what.
I
don't know why there's 200 people watching this. I don't know what. How about this one from Girls Like My Hair? Vivivash promo cards, staff promo cards, being a good investment. Do you have any staff promos? Do you have any?
So
What's your take?
there are so many staff promos. So I'm imagining she's
Yes.
probably talking about these recent ones.
Yeah, they said Vivid Voltage. Yeah.
Oh, Voltage.
Yeah.
What's your take, man? I've answered that question a number of times.
Oh, have you?
Not here, but on other
Okay.
live and different sorts of things. What?
Okay.
We're interested in your take.
So there's been talk about staff promos being canceled or not happening anymore. That has since been disproven based on recent emails from the Pokemon Company.
Oh,
and I think I can talk about that. If I had to guess, they were probably going to change how they are delivered from them being given to stores in pre-release, like products are being mailed directly to stores, to actually mailing them to the event organizers and professors that judge all the events. I'm going to say that's probably the route that they're going to take, and they're probably overhauling that to get. And it should have always been that way, frankly. If you judge a pre-release event, you should be able to go on Pokemon's website and say, "Hey, I judge this," and then they send you a staff promo.
I think time and time again we see, Mason, that YouTubers who like to get out there first, I'm just going to say it for some content and say this is never going to be printed again, and every time it's been wrong so far. They all came out and said Hidden Fate CTPs aren't going to be reprinted, and so my response has always been, including for this, that like YouTubers predicting what the Pokemon Company is going to do.
Yes.
No, not right. Yeah. And really we need to wait to see what they say and do. And even when they say and they do something, they can go back and change what they're doing.
Yes.
And just they haven't done something in the past doesn't mean they're going to do it. And they might change it in the future. Just because they haven't reprinted an old set in the past, they may reprint it in the future. So I think that I just wanted to point that out with what you were saying there. Because I think that's always my reaction when I hear YouTubers who I know don't have insight into what's happening say these things, and I worry that people are watching these videos and then investing off of that, and it's like, yikes. It's like, well,
yeah, I've seen videos where people are talking about distributors and how they work and not owning a store. I'm like, where did you get this? Who told you this? Because that is not how this works.
Yeah.
But no, the official terminology I think they were saying is that they were discontinued. So that tells me that there's always possibility of them bringing them back.
Yeah.
And that there will be some sort of way of incentivizing people to participate in these events that are free. They don't get paid. They have to have some compensation of some kind. So for Pokemon to do it would be always good, because I have a judge that runs my events on staff. But if you have a league, this is getting stuff that probably nobody cares about. But if people that have a league in a store, they can come in and do that for free, and they get no compensation from the store necessarily. There's no incentive for them. The store is just offering them a place to play and hold their league at. So there has to be some sort of compensation for them, and it gets sticky when they're not technically employees. And Magic's had issues with that too, because there's these judge promos that are thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're not technically employees, but they have to be compensated somehow. So it's a situation that card games in general probably should be looking at and have a better idea of how they're going to handle it, because the staff promos were meant to be that. Obviously they're not meant to be sold for thousands of dollars, and they're not meant for the stores to go and sell, and because they aren't running events. So there's lots of issues that they need to take care of on that regard. So I think staff promos will probably be coming back in some form, but obviously the Viv Voltage ones are stupid expensive and probably shouldn't be.
You can buy staff Worlds promos instead of those for the same types of prices. So for me, it's an insane, like the staff promos are actually extremely rare, particularly from certain. I mean, we're talking, how many do you think staff cards there are from these modern sets, Mason? Do you have a sense?
Oh, yeah. So you can probably figure that there's I don't know the exact numbers, how many leagues there are, but it's based on how many pre-release kits I order, is how many staff promos I get. So if I buy 12 kits, I think it's one for every 4 kits. So I'd be getting 4 sets of staff promos. So you can do the calculations and do the math of how many leagues there are, and then how big their events are, and then do the math. I would venture to say that there's probably, 10,000, I'm assuming, probably.
So 10,000 versus probably 600 to 800 to maybe 1,000 to 1,500 at the very most
Right.
of staff world promos that are the world championships of Pokemon, and that have a history and a story that all tie together from each year. Okay. And you can buy the top 32s for the same prices as the staffs. You can buy, sometimes you can get the top 16s for similar. And then you're talking about only 150 in the world, 200 cards in the world. You're talking about 55, 60 cards in the world for some of those lower ones.
Yeah.
So people, this is what I'm talking about. And I don't like saying this stuff. I honestly never do, because I don't want people to go out there and buy. First of all, I'm buying all the good cards.
Oh yeah, that'd be terrible.
So I'm just to be, and that's where my competitiveness part of it comes. But 2, I just don't want to tell, like I'm trying to teach people how to do that work and find that, rather than just giving them the answer of what you should buy. But here's an example of, like, you want the historic Worlds promo item that's going to connect to each Worlds promo that they're going to have forever. Or do you want, like, Vivid Voltage? Like, what's more important, do you think, to the history of Pokemon, the World Championship or Vivid Voltage? And maybe Vivid Voltage is very important to people. Maybe Evolutions is, but I don't see it. And, the percentage difference there and the rarity difference. I just can't say enough about that. So I think for me, and it's so much more common to get the card just without the staff, for some of these cards, without the staff stamp, than it is to get the card without the staff stamp from the Worlds promo cards, which now are also going for a lot of money. So, those are trophy cards to me. Those are actually trophy cards, the Worlds ones, and are as rare as a lot of trophy cards that go for a lot more money. And even rarer than a lot of them. Like, a lot of those cards are rarer than the Pikachu Illustrator with the number that are in the world when you get into, like, the championship stamped ones, the final ones. So these are just cards that, and I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, Mason. But
no, I mean, you have a obviously a very smart point. If they were cheaper, yes, they are limited and they're special products that have a set amount of so many existing, but to be paying more than those other way more historic than a random set that is released in staff promos. It doesn't make financial sense to be collecting staff of Vivid Voltage than staff of World or larger events like that.
Yeah, it's strange. And so, just to put it bluntly, if Twice Baked Jake made a video saying exactly what I just said, you'd see a drastic change in the market, probably. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, with me saying that, people either think that I don't like I get a thing now that people don't think I like Pokemon, because I've
same thing.
Some things are overhyped. It's hilarious. It's like, you have no idea, like, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. These people so angry at me for, it's like, dude, I'm trying to help you. I'm literally giving you away free stuff that not that many in the people world know. Like,
not only that's not put out in the larger part of the internet, just the stuff that's in your head, but stuff that only you may know some of this stuff.
Yeah, probably me and I like and a few hundred people. Probably know the pop reports and on these types of things. Maybe not even that many have a really good sense of what the releases were from those.
Exactly.
And so it is what it is. It is what it is with that stuff. People are going to at the end of the day, and as I said it before, rarity is not what's driving the market. Hype and demand is what's driving the market right now. And those are the examples of that. But when someone asks me, and they ask me all the time, should I buy those cards? And I say, well, yeah, I mean, that card's better than other cards, but there are other cards that are even better than that card. That's usually what I'm thinking in my head. But I kind of just say, here are the positives of that card. Here are the negatives of that card. I don't tell people they shouldn't buy that. They should buy this instead.
Right.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to provide value in a way that doesn't tell people directly what to do. And I don't want to be sued. Like, they're crazy people. It's like, if you like, I'm not a financial advisor. If I'm telling you that you should buy something or sell something and you lose money, you could sue me potentially. And there's all that risk.
Yeah.
A lot of these YouTubers could get sued, honestly, from what they're saying and doing. And if people lost money and they decide to go after them. So it's crazy. It's interesting. We'll see. The same thing happened in the crypto world. There were all these crypto channels, pushing things, talking about things, and prices would go huge. And I don't know. We'll see how it all works. But it's an interesting thing because these channels are sort of under the guise of entertainment, but really they talk mostly about money and investing. A lot of them, not necessarily Jake. I like Jake's channel, by the way.
I watch and learn from all these people.
Yeah.
When I'm not at the store, I'm watching and listening to all these people like Pokemon Radar and Squeaks and all these guys, and I consider them to be extremely knowledgeable. All of them, everybody has more knowledge than the run-of-the-mill person, obviously, and much more, and are completely qualified to be making these kinds of statements. And that's why I don't hate, Twice Baked Jake for the full art thing or whatever, because he's not wrong. They are undervalued. They should be more
Yeah, I mean, I think my issue with his videos have been that he calls things investments that are modern.
Well,
and
yeah.
He uses his language around, is an investment something that it's worth your money because you'll enjoy it. He kind of goes in and out of like, we're hobbyists, but we're investors. And that's the language and the stuff that I think's tricky, because I think that, and I think that he doesn't really take seriously how much of an influence he has, or doesn't think that it matters, and he should just say what he feels, and people are going to do what they do. One or those two things. What I will say is that, he knows a decent amount about the modern stuff, and his area of expertise, or his area of knowledge, and what he tends to focus on seems to be the promos and the Japanese promos, and he seems to have a real love for the Japanese promos. And so I think for the vast majority of people, he knows a lot more than the vast majority of people and the vast majority of his audience, and is much more engaged and in tune, and is able to package it and give it in a way that is helpful to people and makes a lot of good points.
And nobody does it better than him. No. His presentation is top notch.
Do I think nobody does it better than him? I'm not sure. I don't know if I agree with that. He certainly does it a lot better than me. I mean, my channel's terrible. So I would never compare my channel. His channel is a much better channel than my channel. I would never compare my channel to his channel in terms of like the way that he structures his videos.
Right. Yeah.
He's a good YouTuber. I'm not really a YouTuber. He's good at what he does.
Okay, let's say that he's a good PokeTuber. Let's say about that. He's very good at what his audience and who watches his videos. He's a good representation of what that should look like, obviously.
But I think that he's really involved in the day trading of Pokemon cards, not him specifically, but on people who watch that and then see buy it all up, flood it up and down. And I think that it's penny stocks, a lot of the stuff. It's the penny stocks of Pokemon.
Well, yeah, it's most modern is, it's not where the thousands of dollars is.
And I just think that as long as people realize that that's going on, I'm cool with it. I think that it's a dangerous thing because, and I said this in my Pat Flynn interview too. It's like, I'll see Jake make a comment and I'll be like, well, I agree with some of that, but he's not giving the negatives. He's not talking about how much supply there is. He isn't really giving analytics or a lot of details.
Yeah.
And so that's not really good. That's not enough info to decide whether or not to invest. But people see that, they see him talk about something, and then they all go out and buy it the next day. And is that on him? Is that on his audience? Everyone does this everywhere, though. You look at, Pat came back with that, with the video games. Like, people do these reviews, and then everyone goes out and buys it or doesn't buy it based on what they're saying. It's the power of influencers. So to hate on Jake is completely unfair. Because
no one should, no one should hate him for it. Like, he's just a guy making videos about modern Pokemon, and I think in the end of the day, he has a collection. He loves his collection. He loves Pokemon. There should be no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think the one question I have is the words investing, and when you use that word, it's like, first of all, should you even be giving anyone any info on what they should invest in Pokemon at all? And second,
Yes.
if you should do it, how many disclaimers do you need to give? And third, if you're doing it, how analytical are you really? Do you really know the numbers? How much experience and expertise do you really have? Have you bought and sold $1 million of this stuff? Do you because people are listening to you and people are spending thousands of dollars, and it's a lot of probably middle, lower class people doing it. So that's all my concerns. I understand that from an average person who's watching that channel, they're just like, this guy's super nice and knowledgeable and telling me a lot of stuff. I think from my perspective, with the knowledge that I have, the experience that I have, the analytics that I have, the depth that I've gone into all of this stuff, I see that and I say there's not enough information. People should not be buying. People should buy these things if they like them all day. But buying, but it's the self-fulfilling prophecy of he says something and then it goes up, not because his details were necessarily good, but because he talked about it, And it's interesting because on one video I made a comment basically saying that, got a ton of negativity and hate, back from making that comment. And Jake pinned the comment on the video. I wasn't expecting that. I really just wanted Jake to see it, and then I was going to delete the comment because I just wanted to get that message to him.
Yeah.
I got a ton of negativity back towards me from that. And but at the same time, that box that he was talking about didn't move. And I wonder if me talking about that and then having that posted at the top has helped that box not move in price. And that could be crazy. And we'll see, because I deleted the post and now I'm going to watch to see if that box goes up. Because if more people watch that video and don't see that comment, and it makes them think separately. But it's like there's this echo chamber when you look through the comments of everyone saying, yes, it's amazing. I just bought 20. I just bought 30. It's the next big thing to go up. And when you see all of that and then you buy, it creates such instability in the collector value of those types of items, of those types of products. And I don't know. I at the same time, I feel like I'm a jerk and I feel ashamed of myself, for talking about him and for talking about other YouTubers and for spreading negativity, for saying negative things.
Is it?
I mean, I really.
You're not being negative though. That's the thing. That's.
I am being.
You're explaining that's how it works.
I mean, am I being negative or am I describing something that's negative? I think I'm describing something that's negative, right, and trying to do it in a way that doesn't bum people out, but that is also accurate. And
right.
But I feel bad, and but I wish it wasn't happening. And I don't know. I've gone back and forth. The really scummy people, I don't even talk about their names. Like Jake, someone I respect a ton. PokeRev, who I talk about sometimes, respect a ton. Their business acumen, what they're doing, their skill. I would never in a million years expect the success that they have, because my channel isn't nearly as good as theirs because of the look, because of the way YouTube is structured and organized, the camera, the title, the thumbnail you do, all the mechanics. At the same time, it's like, well, people are listening to those people for investment advice, and it's like, I don't know, it's scary. And I wonder what Jake would say about it. And I'd love, would love to have that debate with him or whatever. But, if Jake would sit down and be honest about, does it scare him? Does he think that he has the expertise and the knowledge to really be, that people should really be listening to his investment advice on this sort of stuff? Or is his goal to really just talk about what he loves? And if other people love it, they'll buy it,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested too.
Yeah.
But he probably would never say that because that's against his brand. At least not, publicly. But
Wheezy Wallace says, "Do you want to be as big as Rev, Leonhardt, etc.?" And I would say the honest answer is I would love to be as big as them, because I would make a lot of money, and I'd love to make a lot of money. And I also would like to have that type of potentially more reach. I don't think that I could ever do that, because I'm not even sure this channel should exist. I'm not even sure if this is and definitely don't feel like it's ethical if it gets that big. Like at my size, it might be ethical enough to continue on. Like this is what I think about. I'm genuinely real, guys. Like I promise you, this is all exactly who Jake really is.
I love that there's
Yeah.
so many people that respect you and think that your content is probably the best that there is out there, and you're like, I don't even know if I should exist, guys.
I don't know if I should exist, not because I'm not sure investment type content like this should exist in this way, and the influence that it has, and I don't like the way, I don't like social media. But again, then it goes back to this idea, and I've said this before, I really like Leonhardt, and there are people who could be in Leonhardt's shoes who are much ickier, who have the same platform. And
Yeah.
yes, he goes for clout. Yes, he does certain things, but he could like not be doing all the charity work. He could be shaming other YouTubers, not helping other people grow who are smaller than him. He's had people on his channel who are smaller to help them grow. Like he's done a lot of things to me that demonstrate a very high quality, good character, and we could do much worse. So
That's what I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Like, we've lucked out if Leonhardt's the best or the worst person at the highest.
Oh, well, he's certainly not the worst, but
Right, exactly.
there are plenty more dangerous people in this space, and I would go into it. But the for me, the question then becomes like, like if I get bigger, then I can bring these conversations more out there. Maybe that'll help, but like, and selfishly, I want to be popular, and I want people to like me, and I want to make a lot of money. And, it's why I repeat over and over that I am no saint. I'm a human being like every other person out there. And I deal with those sort of things. But at the end of the day, I know, I made a lot of money in Pokemon. I made a lot of money in the stock market, made a lot of money playing poker, make good money as a therapist, and can make better money as that. I don't feel I'm not needing money. And although I'd like a lot of money, because then I could like binge out on more cards, because I'm now become this materialistic dude that I never was before, because I love cards. It's not a driving force in my life. It's just one other thing. And I think for me, the main driving force is that I want to have fun and enjoy what I'm doing and feel like it's ethical. And I love doing this, but I do question the ethics around it. I question the ethics around me calling out other PokeTubers. I call the ethics around any of us talking about prices and what people should buy and hyping certain things up and saying value, because there's so little information out there. Even someone like me who's dug so deep on everything, there's so little information, and it's so hype driven and emotion driven. It's all that's the stuff I think about. So what do you think, Mason?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with having even like response videos to somebody. Like, I think we can all talk about the same thing and give opinions and not have it be negative.
Yeah.
I like, if we all talk about like the full art price spike, we can all talk about that and bring up Jake and talk about that and not have it be negative.
Yeah.
Just because I mentioned somebody in a video, for us to realize that we can have that conversation and it's not about me calling him out or, saying that he's the cause of this and point to him at some sort of in a negative light.
Yeah.
If I wanted to respond to something that you put out,
yes,
I should be able to mention your name and not feel like it's not.
And you should be able to say Jake was too negative in that video, or Jake contradicted himself, didn't make a good point. And I would like that. But it's because I know that you respect me and you care, coming
right.
But there are people who just say like he doesn't like Pokemon and he's just hating on everyone. It's like, guys, you like the amount I've studied this and how big of a collection, how obsessed I am with all this stuff. Like you don't know me. You're wrong. You have all the wrong assumptions about where I'm coming from right now. And so of course I'm going to react negatively to your comment, and I try to not respond. I just let them sit there. But it's like if you come at me and you want to have a dialogue with me and you come at me with, you hate Pokemon and you just want everyone to fail. It's like, I'm going to be angry in a response. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it up there, because I just don't like deleting negative comments. But I'm also not going to respond and debate. because it's like, you're obviously not taking the time to watch my channel enough to get to know me, really, probably. Or two, you're so fanboy of someone that if anyone says something negative about Scott Pratt, about Z&G Emporium, about you, about, Danny, about Jake, it's like, it means we hate Pokemon or something, or we don't want the person to succeed. I mean, it's just crazy.
And that's the fault of, well, not necessarily us commenting, but us as content creators, but a lot of it happens in the comments and people defending people blindly sometimes.
Yeah. So ODV asks, do you feel Neo and Level X has been affected by your position, Jake? So I'd say that.
Okay. This is interesting.
Neo moved a huge amount before I had a YouTube channel. Was Neo's huge move, big move. In terms of the Level X, I didn't really talk about it a lot until it moved a lot. So I made one video on Level X, two videos. I made one video, a collection video, where I basically warned people from investing in it because we don't know how many were out there. Mm-hmm. But that these were always cards that were very undervalued because the old guard told people you shouldn't buy them because no one wants them and people only want Wizards of the Coast, which I knew firsthand from my experience and talking to many other particularly younger people wasn't true. So I bought 1,000 of them. I was like, well, these are gonna make me a huge money, even if Pokemon doesn't explode, because this just isn't the reality. But I never talked about my positions or what I did until it moved up a lot because I didn't want to have an effect on it. And I tried to bring things down in price, right? Because me telling people that I buy everything for super low is likely going to make people not want to pay the high prices, not the opposite, right? So I both tell you that how low I pay for things constantly to try and get in people's heads that, guys, these were going for super low amounts and now they're going for a lot, but they could retrace back to some of those somewhat lower amounts. But also you can see how quick things can pop when they have good fundamentals behind them. So it's a lesson. I saw the fundamentals. All it takes is demand. Demand's hard to predict, right? So it comes back to all of that stuff. I'm very, although I'm a small channel, there's a lot of money in this channel. A lot of people contacting me who are close watchers who have $1 million that they spend.
Sure.
We have a huge, there's a lot of money here and there are a lot of trophy, because I came from that E4-ish high-end sort of space. There are a lot of people who watch this who have a lot of money and who are interested in that sort of thing. So I know that although we're small, if I share opinions or I give people things, it could drastically change the prices, even though we don't get so few views because the money's there per view or whatever. So it's things that I think about a lot. I don't know what, it's Dragon Ball Z is the big one now, right? Like I want to talk about Dragon Ball Z all the time because I freaking love Dragon Ball Z and there's a great lesson to be learned in what happened. I already doubled to tripled my money in it. Now did I double to triple my money in it because the rich people who watch this channel are also buying it? Maybe. And that would suck. And I hope that's not the case.
I mean, that's the thing. Like what Squeaks and Radar into Naruto. So like they talk about how the prices are moving and they're like,
but these cards are amazing and they're completely undervalued and they're incredibly rare. And the gatekeepers of that hobby, unlike this hobby, the gatekeepers of this hobby were marketers. Gary's a good marketer.
Yeah.
For as sweet and as grandfather as he is, he's a good, he knows what he's doing. He got Logan Paul involved in the hobby.
Right.
He's a man who has from the beginning networked it on, and brought it on TV to try to build the brand of Pokemon. So don't get things twisted with these guys. These guys are trying to build up Pokemon, get it bigger. Now, they love Pokemon and they're doing it in part because of that. But Dragon Ball Z was the exact opposite. People didn't want more competition in it. They wanted to own all the cards themselves. The gatekeepers are very secretive and quiet. There's no information out there. It's much harder to find. The exact opposite of Pokemon. It's a much, much rarer, scarcer product. It's much harder to grade. There's none of it graded out there. The boxes are already going for decent amounts, but way less than Pokemon. There's all these things there. And Dragon Ball Z is 1/4 the size in terms of Pokemon, in terms of the value. Their Dragon Ball Super card selling for 4,000 when the top scorecard, where there's only one in the world, went for like 3,000. It's insane. It makes absolutely no logical sense in terms of any value, evaluation. That being said, it doesn't mean demand is ever going to go there.
Right. I mean, that's the thing.
It
Is
could
like,
never go there. People could not be interested. Now, I look at them, I'm extremely interested. I know a lot of people will be too, because I'm a huge DBZ fan, and there are so many DBZ fans out there. And when you look at these cards, you're going to love them. I just know because I love them. It's the same thing I knew about Pokemon's, how I was so confident.
right.
But it doesn't mean it's ever going to grow. But there's a lot less risk in it because that market has been built up by people who love it and by people who don't want to sell their cards. And people who are not in it for money and never bought any of that stuff to make money. There were no investors in it. It was a dead game. So people, unlike in Pokemon, who are in this space looking to make money, people were buying those purely for their collection. So all of that stuff screams value. But listen, I brought that up because me talking about that, now people are going to go buy it. First of all, I don't want you to, because I want to buy it all. Don't buy it.
Right.
I'm buying as much as I can. Two, it's like, well, and I want to say this again and again and again, it may not go up in value. There's less of a chance of it, in my opinion, going down in value than Pokemon, to be completely blunt with you, for the reasons I said. But I think we could be in a bubble of cards. I think cards may go out of fashion in 5 years, and something, people may be into something else. And if that happens, you're going to see that go down a lot. You're going to see every market go down, because every market, every collectible market during this period has gone up a huge amount. Okay. Pokemon's been probably the most, but a lot of these markets have seen doubles and triples because probably there's massive inflation and people are getting government checks and people are staying at home and are looking for comfort, and all these things are going to shift and change. So there's massive risks in all of these things that I think about. So I'm sorry, I'm going on and on, Mason, but
No, I do want to respond to you talking about collectibles in general. Do you think that you think all collectibles are going to be maybe gone in 5 years, or people just don't want them or won't want them?
Not collectibles, but cards. We could move
Just
from
cards. Okay.
Maybe action figure. Maybe like the DBZ figures are what become really expensive. There are these really cool.
Okay.
Maybe now I think for our generation, cards were so important and were such a hit. I know for me and for people my age, and there's something about cards that adds so many elements of collectability because there's a stated rarity to them. There are 3 or 4 different gambling elements that go into opening packs of cards that you don't get from just buying a statue, that creates so much more inherent, intuitive, psychological collectability and draw towards these items, and why people are so much more attached to those items than they are to like these other types of things. But you just never know what different eras are going to be connected to and into. I think Fortnite, some of the kids I work with, some of the kids I talk to absolutely love Fortnite, and are crazy about Fortnite. What is that love and intensity for video games and Fortnite going to be? What is the collectible that's going to be formed around that? Is there going to be one?
Fortnite has a trading card game. You know that, right?
Yeah. But do kids like the cards?
Probably not. No.
Yeah. Or do they like the game and the video game? Are they going to want to collect some sort of memorabilia? What is it going to be? Maybe there won't be anything collectible from it. But collectability, there's always going to be collectors markets because humans like to collect things unless human beings suddenly shift. But what they like to collect can shift and change dramatically. And, this whole thesis on 30-year-olds like to collect what they had when they were 10, I think is very true, and was the big thing on Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z and a lot of these like 90s things right now. Why I think they're all hitting, why vintage video games and N64 video games are, sealed video games, graded video games are going through the roof. It's all the same exact nostalgia bug. Yeah. It was everything that was important to us when we were kids. So, but we don't know what's going to happen with that. We don't know how long that's going to last. The comic book market went way down. Now it's back up. Pokemon may come down, may go back up. Trading cards may go down, may go back up. But they're always going to have this ability, in my opinion, to explode again. So the thing about it is, even if we see dips, this is products that have the ability to explode for people in price and desirability. And that's my stance on it, but it's so difficult to determine anything. And so that's why I'm much more comfortable, and why I think, and I'm not a financial advisor at all, you need to do this stuff yourself, but why I think it's much better and safer for your life to put your serious money and long-term money and make sure you're financially stable in things like stocks,
Right.
particularly big blue chip type companies, or index funds, particularly like the S&P 500, which has the 500 biggest companies, right? Because the government is not going to let these companies fail, because the United States is going to fail if those companies fail. Whereas people don't need to like Pokemon at the end of the day. They don't need to want these cards or care about these cards at all. Now, it's unlikely that that's ever going to completely go away, right? When we think about human psychology, but there's a lot of risk there. So, end of rant. What do you think, Mason?
I don't know. I think people just like tangible things, and they like holding tangible things and collecting tangible things. So cards are just kind of the ideal thing of collecting, just because they are small, compact. They don't take up a lot of space. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to things like cards over things like, I don't know. I sell a lot of plushies, tons of plushies at my store. Take up a lot of space. There's not going to be like some huge boom in plushies, I don't think, just because they are nice and tangible. But yeah, I think cards are.
You think they're going to start grading plushies?
I mean, this boy right here, let me tell you, he'd probably get a good 9. I don't know. He's not a 10.
Great plushie, man.
I'd love it. It's like I said, I don't have Pokemon things that I have personally, but I was gifted this, so I have that. That's my one thing I've kept.
Love Arcanine.
Yeah, he's my favorite. But yeah, cards just have been, for 50 years collectibles, even older now, but in the mainstream for so long. I think cards are, as far as collectibles go, pretty safe things to invest in. But what do I know?
But they retraced a lot.
Of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
But that doesn't mean, when I say what I'm saying, it doesn't mean zero. It would be, these things going to zero makes absolutely no sense at all, right? Actually, a stock or a company going to zero happens and makes a lot of sense. These things going to zero, it's like, why would people care about something so much, this much, put so much money into it, and then all of a sudden it be worth actually zero where no one can buy it? And the only answer is supply. The only items that really could happen to is the supply. If the supply, there's so many more out there than people who want it, it will be zero. It'll be worth zero. And what it means when a collectible is worth zero, it means that nobody is willing to buy it. That's what it collects. So you might ask for $25, but it's zero if no one will ever pay you for that.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
So we'll see. The junk slab era. We'll see if we're in it. We'll see if we'll be in it. We'll see if it never comes. Right? Who knows?
Oh, people already know my opinion. I made a video about that pretty early on. That it's coming. It is definitely happening.
So I do need to run in a few minutes.
Yeah.
You take like a couple more questions. Do you want to say anything, Mason?
Do you do anything with graded games? Do you have any collections of that? Somebody was asking.
I follow the market, but I don't own any. I have a friend who's getting into it a little bit. I have mixed feelings about the seals and maybe I know you do this more and video games more. So I have concerns about the seals holding up for a long time. I actually have the same concern sometimes over sealed booster boxes. What do you think about that specifically? What do you think about video games as investments, and what do you think about them as physical objects sort of holding up over time?
Yeah, I mean, disc rot is a thing. All the disc-based games are. We already see it in Sega Saturn games and Dreamcast games where those discs are just rotting. They're not usable anymore. Who knows how long motherboards and things like that are good for? I've heard of NES and Super Nintendo games from kids blowing in them that they get rusted and ruin the connections on them. I've seen it in my store where they get water damaged from people spitting on them. So it happens. So yeah, we think of them as some long-term, it'll always work thing, but yeah, they probably will have a lifespan of some kind. So I just sent off 2 things to get graded. It's my first things I ever sent to get graded: a sealed Pokemon Silver and a sealed Blue that came in, and it was very nice condition. So we'll see how those turn out. I'll probably make a video on it. But yeah, I think as we go from things people want to play to the nostalgia, the art of how awesome like those older games looked in a container, that it becomes pieces of art, collectibles, right? So I don't initially like grading games. I don't really like grading cards because I think they're meant to be touched and collected and put in binders and played with. But it does get to a point where, yes, this is now a collectible. This is now something historical. This is art. So yeah, I think there's all that kind of stuff. If people value it enough and have strong enough feelings for something, that it can become a collectible that is worthy of grading and saying that it's a perfect copy or whatever of something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested. I really am I'm really a novice in that area. I do a little bit of research on just, I know that there are some extremely rare games, some extremely expensive games.
Right. Yeah.
Have they gone over 500,000 yet? I think there have been 3, maybe that Mario game.
Yeah, there's been a lot that have been for really silly expensive, but yeah, I don't.
It's an interesting market for sure.
Like so many things, I think those are grossly overpriced and grossly overvalued. But
yeah,
again, you stick with stuff that is strongly desirable, low population of them existing,
yeah,
and mainstream stuff that people remember and want to have a sealed copy of.
yeah.
A sealed, pick a random NES game, Master Blaster is not going to be valued by anybody unless you want that game. But the general market appeal for that is less than a Pokemon Blue, which I sent off. So
I think there's such an interesting debate too, in that, is the blue is the most expensive, most in demand item going to be the one that does the best over time, or are there items in Pokemon that people don't know enough about, that people don't see? Are those the ones that are going to actually by percentage outperform that item? Because for me, for example, like the Charizard, it's so, I would so much rather buy tons of other cards. Like if I had $350,000 or now $300,000, whatever it would take to buy one of those Charizards, I would much rather have that cash and go on a crazy, fun, amazing shopping spree than just buy that card. One, it wouldn't be fun for me to buy that card. Two, owning that card is definitely not a trophy goal of mine, or was never a big interest of mine. Because for me, it's just kind of like, I don't really care that much about having the 10 versus like a lower grades that I can get like much more easily or at any time for me personally. Although I think it is really cool, just not that cool. Yeah. And when you talk about that type of money, for me, just speaking personally as a collector, like I could do so much in Pokemon with that money. I could make first of all, I could make so much money off of $350,000 in Pokemon.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of like, making it work in certain
areas. Think of all the buyouts you could do.
Yeah, and certainly, making it work in certain areas. But even just as a collector, it's like I could own 50% of like my favorite WotC Holo cards. Once over time, slowly, because I'm patient. I'd buy when they came up for decent prices. I would buy them slowly over time, so as not to bid myself up. All of those things. But yeah. So it's interesting things that I think, and I think the reality is, like, as long as I do this channel, as long as you do this channel, it's the type of stuff that we will comment on as it happens, because we don't know, we can't predict the future with that stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to reflect back 5, 10, 15 years, how things went. And I could see them going in so many different directions.
Yeah. Cool Trainer Tony asked me if I went with WATA or VGA. I sent off to WATA. I like the technology behind that. They seem to be a lot more modernized. I think the cases look better. I think they're better protected of the games. So I went with WATA just because the technical aspects of them, I think, are stronger than VGA personally.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Some people talking about, like the game. There are games that do appeal to me because I have nostalgic relationships to them, like GoldenEye, as someone's saying here. Yeah. For me, like the N64, GoldenEye, Mario Kart. I liked probably Smash was probably my favorite game, particularly in college. But when I was younger, it was more Mario Kart and GoldenEye were the two games that I like would play with like my neighborhood friends like every day.
Yeah, me and Radar would get along just because I played thousands of hours of Smash as well. So of Melee in particular, I've spent so many of my years playing that game.
All right, here's a good question to end on, and then I think we probably should end for today.
Okay.
Adam asks, and both of us give our opinions here. How do you feel about the Protostois? Because that's an interesting current event topic.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on the pro? Have you been following it? Do you know?
No, yeah, I looked it up and I followed it. I knew about it when they showed the picture of the sheet that it was on, and
yeah.
So before it was sent off, I've been following that stuff. It's a piece of history that, up to recently, didn't know existed even, or how the original prototypes or printing prototypes even came about. So obviously it's a strong historical piece that deserves some value. I don't know if the price that they've been selling at is there, but that's all subjective. It's worth how much ever anybody wants to pay for it, right? So that's really what it comes down to. When you're a one of, what's price is reasonable. It doesn't matter. It's whatever somebody wants to pay. So, but it's largely historical. It's one of a few of that kind of printing. I think it's an awesome piece that any collector of any trading card probably would want. It's just a piece of even Wizards of the Coast history of all the stuff they printed over the years, and of Pokemon and Magic and all that's together. So
I think it was, for me, the psychology, or like the way people reacted to it, was so fascinating. Like, you had people who were so negative on it.
Really? I didn't see anybody negative. Tell me about it.
There were people saying that, like, yeah, this shouldn't go for that much. People were shocked. It went like most of the high end people were shocked. Expert people were shocked that it went for over 100,000. There's a lot of interesting ideas about what should be the most expensive cards in the hobby and what shouldn't be. And a lot of that conversation is not based on facts of the objective.
No, well, yeah, of course.
Cards.
Yeah.
So I think what's so fascinating about this card is it's amazing. It's an amazing story, amazing history, an unbelievable rarity, and like the story of it at its time period and its place in the hobby as sort of that, first English, before 1998, right? Is that card?
I mean, yeah, it would have been before the first printing, so yeah, it would have been right around there.
I'm fascinated by it. I didn't have a price in mind of what I thought that should go for. When I was watching it happen, and when I was watching that debate happen, I was just more amazed at how, like, silly it was to me that people were like, how do you price an item like that? I mean, it's just crazy to me. There's no price history. People didn't even talk about this card or know of its existence. When I think about the historical importance of it and the rarity of it, does the price make sense versus the price of other items? Sure. I mean, the Pikachu trophy, a PSA 7, sold privately for like 220-ish thousand, 225,000. Would I rather have that card or this card? Close.
Yeah.
And to me, I'd rather have both of those cards than the Pikachu Illustrator, just being completely honest with people. If money wasn't a thing, in terms of, to me, what I think are some of the most important historic cards in the hobby, if money wasn't a thing. Now I'd rather have the Pikachu Illustrator because I could sell it for more. But then I would sell it and buy that card, or try to buy that card and try to buy the other one, right?
Right. So historically, that card, I think, has more value as a piece that is unique. And
me. Yes. And that's why because for you, it'd be like, well, I prefer the first ever art competition and it's before this, and I prefer Japanese cards. It's like, then go for the Pikachu Illustrator. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. These cards are all so rare that, like, when we talk about the difference between 2 and 39, I do think it is quite significant, and you do have to be aware of that multiplier that probably should be there, but it's also an extremely rare item.
Right. Something that shouldn't exist. Like, that should not have survived.
Yeah.
That should have been destroyed and thrown away. And
so it's interesting. I think that if I would have had to guess what I thought that would have gone for, I wouldn't have guessed it would have gone for that high, because I thought there was so much negativity around it trying to push it down, which I didn't get. It's so weird to me that, because I think that if some of those people who were negative about it were hyping it, it would have gone higher. I think if you had big trophy people come out and say, this is the best trophy card we've ever seen, this is the most important card in the hobby, card could have gone for $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
Because who knows? It could be worth any amount when you're talking about if there really are only 2 of those or whatever. So, that's my response to it. It's a humongous gamble buying a card like that, because there's no price point, there's no price history. You and the other person bidding on it might be the only 2 people in the world willing to pay that, and might ever be willing to pay that. Or someone may offer you $5 or $10 million one day for that. Go up. I have no idea.
Yeah. If you're looking for the ultimate, most unique piece in the hobby, that's pretty far up there as something to chase, if that's what you're after.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, I actually need to. So people who are much more experienced and better than me, there are a lot of people who have a lot more knowledge than me in this hobby, who don't have YouTube channels. In fact, a lot of the most knowledgeable people in this hobby don't. And luckily I like interact with them a little bit, can ask them questions. And also, but one of them did an excellent article on E4, which people should check out, kind of breaking down the process of trying to legitimize this card. And of course, I forget the guy's name from Magic, who did an unbelievable job of, such cool videos and that whole process. But watching those videos, and yeah, I'm with you, Mason. At the end of the day, these things are worth whatever people are willing to pay for them. And it's just so strange that people have such strong positive opinions on this one thing, and such negative opinions on something else. So that's what I would say about it. Everyone out there needs to make their own decisions for themselves. And if they have a lot of money, whichever trophy card you decide to go for that's that expensive, like, go for the one that you care about the most, that is the most interesting to you, that provides the most history to you. Don't go for the ones that are necessarily the most expensive, that are necessarily the most hyped, is what I would say. So
yeah, I don't know, I think it's cool. I love it. I think it's a cool piece of history. As a historic piece, I think it's cool, for sure.
Did you buy it, Mason?
It was not me. It was not. No.
I actually bought it, and I'm just hyping up my own card.
No, you know what? I'm happy for you. That's a good buy. I would say you did good.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, most people I was hearing were predicting, like, they're throwing out random predictions like 50,000, 60,000, 20,000, 10,000. Like, people had no idea how much people would be willing to pay for it. And when you're trying to price an item like that, it's very interesting. There have been some items like that in the video game world, right? Like, interesting prototype.
Yeah, there's even been some instances of grading prototypes and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, things that are. Like,
what do you this is going to go for whatever. Like, how do you even figure out a price or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know of anything off the top of my head that's sold for like tons and tons of money, but yes, there is one of unique things that I'm sure there's a total market for somebody that's out there and wants to collect that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the issues with a card like this is that it isn't going to be able to sell itself. Something like the Pikachu Illustrator, or something even more that has even more copies, because I think the Pikachu Illustrator has also been hurt by its rarity in some ways during this time period. But something that has enough copies that it can ladder up, or that we can see new, because people want to pay what other people are paying. If other people are willing to pay something, it adds confidence. So now that card is sold for 350, people are much more confident in that it's worth 350 or would pay a lot more.
Well, I think at 350, I think those people that have that kind of money are perfectly confident making that sort of purchase. But true, you have a point.
Well, but nobody, including the rich, for the most part, want to pay something that other people aren't willing to pay, or
For
pay
sure.
more than other people are willing to pay. So,
Right.
everyone I think is always trying to get the best deal. I mean, I know firsthand, I can't go into details, but stuff that like Logan Paul wanted to get cards at the best value he could and was negotiating with a lot of people, right? So to try to get the cards that he got. So it wasn't like, even people with huge amounts of money and income and cash, they're
Yeah. Everybody
sad.
wants a deal.
They
Everybody
want
wants a deal.
yeah, they want
Yeah.
to do it too. And they want to feel like they're buying something at fair market value or what it's worth. So I think it's really cool that whoever bought that took that risk. I commend that person in a lot of ways for going after something and for not listening to the hype or not listening to the lack of hype or whatever, and buying something that they think is cool. Be interesting to see how that does, or if it ever comes up again for sale, those sorts of things. So any last thoughts today, Mason, my friend?
No, like I said, we did hit 3 hours, so we're good. Put in our time. I appreciate you having me. Like I said, I would have been here anyways, so it's nice to be able to respond and give my thoughts on things. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It's great having you on. Anyone who isn't subscribed to Mason's channel yet, go over there, subscribe, start following him, give this man some support. He's a great guy in this community. Been very nice getting to know him both on camera and off camera, and I'm sure we'll continue to work together and do things. I'm
Of
sure
course.
here and there in the future.
I am always on board.
All right, my friend.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
thank you all so much for hanging out with us for this 3-hour period. And
We went down a path, didn't we? We took a little trip. We had some fun.
We did good. We talked about a number of topics and hopefully provided some details in there here and there that people can think about and reflect on for themselves.
For sure. Yep.
Right, dude.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.